I think Tevez going to Juventus, what a coup that was for me. I mean,
on a head-to-head battle, Atletico Madrid can do more damage to Barcelona than the other way around.
Either he's really blind or he's fixing the match. I can't see it any other way.
I'm trying to get Sir Bob on my side here by saying City will win the Premier League.
it is an upset. You would expect Man United to go and win there.
Over $1 billion was paid in transfer fees between the clubs in Europe.
It's football. It's damn football. Like Ferguson said, football. Bloody marvellous.
Yeah, well, the celebration was, I can't believe I just scored against Mexico. At one point, Parma, I think it's something like 224 players under contract. Well, they're going to throw me out of here, fellas. You're going to get me arrested on your show.
If you're a serious talent, you're going back and you're playing for Santos. You know, you're going back to play for, like in Argentina, for River Plate or Boca Juniors, or you're going to Europe.
He looked like the Ryan Giggs of old. He was more creative than any player on the pitch. He made Mata look stupid. He made Rooney look silly.
Now, the Premier League is the most exciting league out there. I think it's probably the best marketed league without a question.
When you look at the draw for the Champions League, you kind of say, well, all the pieces kind of fell into place for everybody except City.
I am your host, Joe Usello.
Sir Bob, Mike Orr, my co-host, Rob Rojas,
my trusted co-host, Ben the Machine. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 67 of Low Limit Football. I am your host, Joe Usello, and very excited about tonight's show because if you had the privilege of being able to sit in and listen to us chit-chat before we came on the air, things got heated, let's say, but aggressive, and I think we're going to try to spill that out onto the airwaves tonight. I would like to preface tonight's conversation and show by saying that it is a unedited show. It is no holds barred. It is internet radio, and some things are said. So this show could get aggressive and not for the faint of heart. And if that happens, I'm going to apologize in advance, but it is what it is. So going out first tonight, let me introduce from the Great White North, Sir Bob, Mike Orr. Mike, what's going on tonight?
Not too much, Joe. How you doing?
Good. I think we're ready to have a little bit of a chit chat. I am going to get the trivia question out of your mouth first before we get into our debate, just to make sure that we're on the up and up there. Let me head it over to the other side of the border and Mr. Roberto Rojas. Rob, what's going on?
Doing well. Hope for a good show, and yeah, basically it.
Yeah, and our guests are going to be joining us momentarily, who we're excited to have. They're actually returning guests again. Two more guys that we didn't piss off completely when we started podcasting, so they're joining us again. We'll have them on in a couple minutes. But Mike, I'm going to go back over to you, and if you want to let me know what the trivia question is tonight, my friend.
All right. Which two future Premier League managers partnered each other up front for the same team in the 1992 European Cup final?
Which two? I'm sorry, repeat that again, please.
Which two future Premier League managers partnered each other up front for the same team in the 1992 European Cup final? So two players who went on to become Premier League managers.
Oh, I got this.
In the European Cup final.
92. Yeah, I got this.
92 final.
I got this.
We have to hold it till the end of the show because that's how it is. 92 European Cup final, Premier League managers. I'm trying to scan through them in my brain right now.
Should I
No, nothing.
No.
Okay. Right.
I want no hints. I want nothing. All right, let me...
If you got this one this quick, and it was really a question that Joe should have been able to get this quick, then no hints for him.
All right.
All right.
Fair enough.
And you understand why I'm saying that if you have the right answers.
Yes,
Rob.
I am.
Okay.
All right, so now that means I'm thinking that if that's the case, they are not. They're not currently Premier managers, and
They will be one.
And they're probably at least, we're at least looking at one, if not two Italians. It sounds like so. I'm gonna have to put some thought into it for a minute. So we'll get to it. But I think that's a fairly decent one, and of course, everyone else is going to get it right, and I'm going to get it wrong. So what else is new? Let's go to our opening thought of the night, gentlemen, and it is certainly one that has caused significant debate amongst the three of us, and it, certainly an interesting topic, and I think the listeners are going to.
It's my favorite type of debate because I'm coming into it with a closed mind, and I can't be convinced otherwise. So I know I'm right.
It's my way or the highway.
In my mind, yeah, and I'm coming, like I said, with a totally closed mind.
And that's okay, because a lot of times, at the end of this argument, we're going to have to say, you know what, we agree to disagree.
Yeah, so we can just say that now, because I can guarantee unless you come with me, I'm agreeing to disagree.
Fair enough. We're going to agree to disagree, but this is the debate. And, if people want to shoot us a message on Twitter at Low Limit Football, if they want to go to our Facebook page, absolutely. We would love to hear any and all thoughts on this particular debate, and we'll try to share them on the air next week. And I put the question into
unless they agree with me, I will share it tonight.
So the opening thought is, and I want to make sure before I say it, did I have it in the show plan right, guys, in terms of how we want to ask it?
I think it's more geared towards the friendlies. Yeah.
Okay. Are international matches during the season a good thing or a bad thing? Now let's talk about the genesis of this argument. Is obviously we're in the middle of an quote unquote international break, or a FIFA international break, where some countries are playing for their European Championship, while for the most part, I'd say the majority of the world is playing in international friendlies. We've got the U.S. playing Switzerland tomorrow. They played Denmark earlier in the week. We saw Argentina play El Salvador over the weekend. We saw Brazil play Chile up in England. So we've had a lot of quote-unquote meaningless games. Now mixed in as well, we saw Italy, Bulgaria in a qualifier. We saw Iceland win their qualifier earlier this week, which will lead us to our guests in a few minutes. So we had that happen as well. So there are some quote-unquote meaningful games as they're qualifying for the Euros for next year. But for the majority of the time, most of the countries in the world are playing, for lack of a better term, meaningless friendlies. Now, I'm going to chime in quickly and say that...
Perfect term.
Okay, meaningless friendlies. I don't feel that they are quite so meaningless, because I think, everyone's on a 4-year cycle. So, for Jurgen Klinsmann, let's look at the U.S. men's national team. If I'm Jurgen Klinsmann, if I am the head of the U.S. men's national team right now, I want to play matches now in the first 6 to 9 months of this 2015 calendar year that I can start looking at mixing in the younger players. So Gideon Zelalem, if I can get him on my team, I want to see him. I want to see. Oh boy, I can't think of the kid's name from the Bundesliga.
Julian Green.
Julian Green, thank you. I want to see Joe Zhao if he's not injured. I think he's still out with his injury that he suffered from last year. These are the kids.
So we're talking about the American-German national team.
Well, yeah, for the most part. But although Zelalem plays at Arsenal. But I want to see...
No, but I mean in terms of where they're from.
Right. So, yeah, exactly, yeah. All the players that they're picking up. But I want to see Jurgen start to mesh these kids who we're pretty sure in 4 years are going to be on the pitch in the starting 11 in Russia for the 2018 World Cup. I want to see him start to mix these people or these players in with the other people that are maybe established already on the team but are not starting, let's say, or for example are there but are going to be there in 4 years. So for example, Mix Diskerud, somebody like that. Jermaine Jones is probably not going to be there. We're not so sure on Clint Dempsey. Michael Bradley will probably be there. We know that Tim Howard will not be on the team come in 4 years. There's going to be a question of Brad Guzan. We know Nick Ramondo's probably not going to be there. So, some of these defenders that we're seeing, those are the guys that I want to see Jurgen Klinsmann take these players or these groups of players and go and start to play these Denmarks and start to play these Switzerlands and see what he needs to do and what kind of formations will work so that when we start hitting, not necessarily next year or the year after, we can start to plan accordingly and get our system in place so that 2017 is really a time when Klinsmann is taking on some of these teams that are going to be World Cup teams and say, we're playing these guys and we're trying to win because this is how we're going to – these are the people we're going to play next year in Russia and really start gearing towards doing better than the round of 16. So, where they're quote-unquote meaningless games, I don't think they're quite so meaningless at this point, okay? I think they do have a purpose. But, Mike, I'm going to throw it over to you as I hit up our guest here that's coming up soon. I want to send him a quick message because you don't feel the same way. So now I'm going to stop. I'm going to say that we don't want to talk about the European qualifiers for next year's Euro because I think that's a little bit of a different argument from the other matches.
But still, the timing is what I don't like.
Okay, okay. But let's leave that section of the argument out for now.
Because the friendlies are my biggest craw. Yeah,
right, exactly. So I want you to go ahead and give us your side of the argument, and then I'm going to turn it over to Rob and give the other side. So, Mike, the stage is yours.
Well, let Rob go first. Actually, I think Rob should go first.
All right, Rob. Obviously, I'm on the side of these matches are not meaningless. They are important, but as long as they are used properly, they're important. So, Rob, why don't you go ahead and continue with my argument and obviously add your own parts.
Well, when you're going to the idea of towards representing your country, that obviously means so much to someone. It doesn't matter what age you were. If you grew up liking the sport as a young kid, doesn't matter whatever country you are in the world, you dream to play not only for a big club in, say, Europe, but to represent your country and in the World Cup. And that starts, in a way, with friendlies that, okay, they could be pointless, but in regards to the opposition they're playing, in regards to what type of preparation it is for, and it's there because you're being selected from a distinct manager, one of the, I guess, I don't want to say, I guess an experienced one, and you're one of those 23 lucky players out of, let's see, how many players play in the United States that are American? Or I guess how many Americans play
outside of the U.S.?
Outside of the U.S. and inside.
Well, I think it depends on how you're looking at the squad. Are you looking at the current 23, or are you looking at the 30, or are you looking at the top 100? I mean,
okay, let me put a hypothetical then. About thousands of players around the world, and to be selected by these scouts made by, I guess let's do an example, Jurgen Klinsmann scouts for the U.S. national team. Mm-hmm. You're lucky enough if you make that 23-man squad.
Right.
Even it's a privilege. It's there on your career if you make the World Cup squad for your national team. That's something to be remembered for.
Oh, absolutely, no doubt about it. I mean, it's and this is part of my argument with them not being meaningless friendlies. Is there is a sense of honor and pride, and when we bring John Townsend on here in a few minutes. I want to touch on a tweet that he had sent out earlier today about this particular aspect of the argument. But there is an honor and a privilege with putting on your country's uniform. It's like wearing your country's flag when you walk.
It's like going to army. It's like going to war.
Without the guns and without and not to diminish anything that anybody does when they fight in foreign lands for our country. The reason we have the ability to do this podcast is because people have died for us. So I don't want to diminish any of that. But like you said, it's defending your country's honor. Okay. Not defending your way of life or because that unfortunately people die to do that. But it is defending your country's honor on a field of play. And there, aside from putting on a military uniform and fighting for your country, I don't think there is a greater honor, for your country representation than to represent your country in sport, whether it is in soccer or in basketball, baseball, hockey, it doesn't matter. When you slap on that uniform, it's like wearing the flag itself. And it's a privilege and it's an honor and it's not a right where we've seen like some players in, I forget the gentleman, the soccer player from Mexico, who basically said to his team his country a couple of times, "Nah, I'm not going to play for you." It would have been once. The first time you say no to play for your country when asked, we're done. That's how I feel about that particular scenario. It's a passion. It's a privilege. It is not a right, and it's an honor when you're asked. So that's.
But now let's look at another situation. But this is probably a different topic. Mm-hmm. What if you're someone that could be eligible for 2.
Well, I don't want to go down this road just yet because, like I said, when John comes on, I do want. This is one of the main things I want to talk about when John comes on is the ability to play for multiple countries. So we're going to go away from that one.
Right.
Let's put that in the back pocket for now, and then we're going to pull that one out. Trust me.
All
right. So I mean, so obviously you come down on the side of it's an honor and a privilege. Now, in relation to the argument at hand. Which is, like I said, Mike's assertion is that the timing is
It is an honor and a privilege to play for your national team. Not saying that it isn't, but
I know
some of these friendlies, it's just you're living in a sentimental past where this took place. Some of these friendlies are totally useless. I could care less whether I played for Canada in some of these games at all. I'd rather be at my club team where I'm getting paid, where they've actually trained me and honed my career since I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. And I'd rather play for my club team than some of these things. I'm not saying there shouldn't be international soccer at all. You guys keep saying that, right. And it's not true. That's not what I'm saying at all. The timing of some of these things needs to be different.
Okay, so all right,
we're talking about some of these tournaments were set up 30 years ago where players played in their home countries and the game wasn't as global as it is now. Players from Brazil weren't playing in England. They weren't playing in the United States. They weren't playing all over Europe. They travel home 30 hours each way to play in a meaningless, and they play for 45 minutes.
And then they get back on a plane for 7 hours, and
there's unlimited subs throughout these games. They're using formations they're going to maybe try out, but they'll never use it. Mm-hmm. They're using players that are never going to play with half of the team. It's some of it is pointless. And a lot more of world rankings needs to be used to just qualify some of these bigger teams for the tournament. There's no way England should play Liechtenstein every year in the qualifiers and beat them 20-0.
Those world rankings, first of all, are completely worthless.
Well, the top 8 and 10 are worthless at all.
Yeah,
they have, whether the order might be wrong, they have pretty much the top 10 teams in the world in the top 10.
But we're not talking about a top 10 sport anymore. We're talking.
I never said to qualify. I said to qualify the top teams for these tournaments, and then they can still have the qualifying for the smaller teams where the big names aren't going to be going off the big name clubs.
I see what you're saying. So if you're going to have a tournament in South America,
if you're going to have world rankings, at least use some of them to automatically qualify the top 4 seeds in every group or something like that.
So what you're saying is that using, so for example, we're going to
and then give the world rankings some meaning.
Well, okay, so you're going to play the Copa America this year, right? In Chile, right? The 25th.
Right, Brazil's going to qualify no matter what.
All countries in South America qualify.
All the countries in South America qualify.
Okay, so then there's no need to even do a qualifying there. Just play a few friendlies in the part of the season where
they don't do qualifiers.
Yeah, that's right.
I just said they don't need to do qualifiers, so now just do the friendlies in the time of year when it's not going to be disruptive to where half their players are playing it throughout the world.
All right, so let's look at the Euro then. Let's look at the Euro then. No, because my guy, I disagree with you. I do think the FIFA World Rankings are meaningless. Okay,
the top 8 aren't meaningless.
No, because
look at the top 8 or the top 4 and tell me which one shouldn't be there.
Well, let's look at top 8. I have the rankings right here. So do you want me to read off?
Yeah, I see them too. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. You read them.
1, Germany. Mm-hmm. Obvious. 2nd, Argentina. 3rd, Colombia. 4th, Belgium. 5th, Netherlands. 6th, Brazil. 7th, Portugal. 8th, France.
9th Uruguay.
And these are all before these games this week too. So
yes. Yeah, this is as of March 12th.
Yeah, so don't take into account the Netherlands tie and stuff like that. Yeah, that's pretty close to what I'd say the top. Whether they have them in the right order, I don't care.
Let's move a little further.
And most of the tournaments outside the World Cup only have 4 groups, so you would use the top 4.
All right. Well, let me move it a little further. Spain 11. Switzerland 12.
Yeah, but now you're going further down than I want to go. Now those teams need to qualify.
Okay,
for tournaments.
So teams that would be eliminated. Okay, by using that, let's say we'll cut it.
Not eliminated. They would be into a qualifying tournament.
Okay, that would have to qualify. So Italy's in at 10, right?
Well, it all depends what tournament it is. In the Euros, they wouldn't be in. If there's 4 European teams ahead of that, then no.
In the Euros. So Germany, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Portugal would
all be group seeds in A, B, C, and D. They would all be number one seeds in those groups, then use qualifiers for the rest of it.
I'm going to ask you a simple question right now. Do you think Portugal is better than France right now?
I don't know, but we're talking 2 months ago ratings, and they would probably come up with a better system where the ratings actually. And who cares?
Well, even
Portugal makes it, that other team will still make it through qualifying. It's just that's the way it is. You're never going to have a consensus. And we're never really going to know who the top four is. It's on a given day. A given team beat this team. Now they're the best team. That's just the way it is.
No. The FIFA rankings are done as a culmination of their performances over the past years. It's not
with that heavily weighted towards the games that they're playing most recently. It's a laddered system where the games you play more recently have more weights than the games you played 2 years ago.
All right, so most recently, Italy obviously got eliminated in the group stages of the World Cup, most recently. Portugal got eliminated in the group stages of the World Cup. France, who was number 8 and would have to qualify under your system, made it through to the quarterfinals.
Okay, but the world rankings would look different in 2 months after this, too. That's what I'm saying. You have to pick when you're going to use the world rankings, and they need to be probably adjusted.
All right, so then when's a good time? I mean, you're going to wait
I don't know. Somebody needs to come up with a world ranking system. It doesn't matter what too bad. If Portugal's in, they're in. They're going to make it through qualifying anyways.
And again, I'm not trying to. I know I'm not going to convince you. So that is not my goal by arguing this point. But my point is that I think there is a value to these friendlies. I don't think it's, And I'm not saying there's not a value to them. They just don't need to be played with 6 games left in the Premier League season. All right, well then
what? No, schedule them differently. Europe's the biggest league in the world. All the European leagues are in the middle of their season, actually 3/4 of the way through their season. Schedule that friendly would have been just fine 4 weeks from now.
But when? July? August?
Who cares? June? Yes, they have them in neutral countries most of the time anyway.
Now I'm an MLS apologist, and you even pointed out last week.
So where's the rest?
No, wait. You pointed out last week that 65 players got called up by MLS, and even this weekend, we're talking about
MLS can't shut down because they're already going to shut down for the Gold Cup. How many times do you want them to shut down in one season?
Well, I'm saying there is no good time. My point is that there is no good time to schedule these matches.
Yeah, there is a good time. The MLS will be the team they'll be the league that gets burned because they're off the calendar year.
But
that's the league that's going to... I'm not saying it's going to work out for everybody.
MLS, Liga MX.
Is the MLS paying players 25, 35 million pounds a season?
No, they're not.
No, it's England and Italy and Spain? Yes.
Well, then, let's tell...
So that's the league that's the league, and most of Europe plays around that schedule.
Well,
the MLS is the oddball out.
If they controlled it so much, why haven't they argued more about the 2022 World Cup?
What? Who controls what?
Well, I mean, if what you're saying is accurate in terms of this should change, and they should not play these matches during the Premier League, which is really the European season.
So now you want me to get into corruption at FIFA in this argument?
No, but you can.
Which it does apply to this argument too, because half of these friendlies are like the most bribed games on the face of the earth.
It does, but I'm asking you,
why, now these young players get bribed and their whole career could be over.
But why haven't those federations argued more about that World Cup, or even said, you know what? Because they've already...
Because they're powerless.
How, when they have all the money?
Because FIFA can... That's what I would like to know. Why does FIFA have all this power? I've asked that question. I don't understand it. Why do the club teams are secondary in power to the international teams? I'll never understand that.
Know.
This is the only sport where this works.
I know.
This way. In hockey, teams sometimes refuse players to go to tournaments. That's the way it is.
All right, well, what I'm going to do is...
tournaments that are scheduled during the season, like the World Cup of Junior Hockey. A lot of players that are on the NHL teams say, no, we're going to release them for this tournament.
I'm gonna back us all off the soapboxes here for a moment. And the reason I'm going to do it is because I'm going to bring in and introduce our two guests, who, again, like I said, are returning guests. And again, I haven't figured out why they wanted to return. Our final guest of the 2014 calendar year, Jim Hart. Jim, how's it going tonight?
Hey Joe, how are you?
Great. And one of our best guests that we had from last year has again foolishly agreed to come on and talk to us tonight is John Townsend. John, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Hey Victor, hi John.
How's it going?
Good, man.
So I
How's your blood pressure there, Sir Bob?
Oh, my blood pressure's fine. I'm just passionate about things that I believe in. That's all. And I think
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Some of this is ridiculous in my mind.
I want to turn the stage over to you two guys because I know this argument kind of plays into your wheelhouse a little bit. And Jim, I'll go to you first to give us your soapbox 2 minutes version of it, where you stand and what you think. But give us your thoughts on what we've said so far.
Well, I think the international breaks are important for a couple of reasons. Right now, we've got the European qualifying going, and my team, the Iceland guys, are doing quite well. They're currently sitting second in their group, Group A, and unfortunately for John, who's I'm sure is rooting for the Dutch team, they've already beat the Dutch 3-0 at home. They've got a 5-point advantage. They won again this weekend, 3-0, and Iceland's sitting pretty. So, as far as, qualification for the European 2016 tournament goes, these international breaks are critical for that. So, there are, I believe, I don't know what the number is, something like 60 some odd teams in UEFA. And so you have to, it takes time for the group stage to get through that. And so you have to take these breaks to get the group stages in.
Right, but this last one, would it make a big difference if the last group, because the season's over by the time the next qualifiers come, would it make a difference if this was 5 weeks from now, really? And just let this season go?
The next one is June 12th, right?
Okay, but they would have to schedule them a little different, is all I'm saying. That this one necessarily right now doesn't have to be with 5-6 games to go in the club seasons. You said there's 65 UEFA teams or something like that. At least 50 of them seasons are done in 5 weeks. And then everybody's available, and you're not I'm not saying they have to disrupt the season at some points. I understand that to get this qualifying done. But this last one doesn't necessarily have to be right this last week. They could have waited till 5 more weeks and then schedule the one in June for a little further down. And you have 2 in the summer that are a little closer together. These are top quality athletes. They can play 2 international games 2 weeks apart. That's not a problem at all. That's a false argument.
Not sure I got my 2 minutes, but that's okay.
Sorry, no, go on. I'm just, that's how it works. I'm just, okay, go on.
But I also think that it's not just for the international players. This is a really good time in the season, especially this break. So this break sets up the final push for the European clubs. It's a good break for the guys who are on these teams who are not international players. So just because Chelsea has, 14 guys or whatever it is on Man City's got 12 guys, etc. on down the line. You've got relegation battles that are being set up. You've got, La Liga battles. You've got Serie A battles. You've got all these things being set up. This last international break, to me, has always been the time where those teams regroup, they get reset, and then a big push comes. And this is make or break time for a lot of teams like Sunderland, like QPR, teams like that. It's going to come down to the wire for these teams now. We've still got a race at the top. We still have a race for second place in the Premier League. Man City isn't looking terribly terrific right now, so Arsenal could still pick them off for second place. So to me, this little break could give those secondary players on those squads time to regroup, let those coaches have at them for a couple of weeks, and restructure a few things. And I think it's a good thing.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to John, and I'll let John get his 2 minutes in on this topic. So, John, what are your thoughts?
So we're talking about if international friendlies matter? Is that the debate here as I'm following along?
Not necessarily that they matter or not, but I think Mike's argument is that they should not be scheduled in this time frame. They should be scheduled when the leagues are kind of off peak. Not
really. It's this last one that I really don't like. I disagree almost verbatim with I'm exactly opposite of Victor on all of what he said there on this final. No, I am. It wrecks the whole cohesion. Players getting 2 weeks off to regroup.
I love you too, Bob.
That's not the cohesion of a football season. It's play one game every week, especially with 6 weeks to go.
And I also want to add that I love how the two of you are referring to each other under your nom de guerres. So, John, go ahead.
So, in terms
instead
really,
of
also I really disagree with the timing of this last, especially the friendlies, not so much the qualifiers.
Okay, so this is something that I've always questioned because our crazy league in the United States and in Canada with MLS, we always have this different calendar. So my take on it is a little different. I think that during World Cup years or even after European competition, I think the start of European football should actually be delayed about 3 to 4 weeks. So I think what should have happened was at the beginning of the season, at the end of the World Cup, there should have been a delayed start. But I know that would drive TV, contracts crazy and fans go nuts. But I think it really does hurt the players to start, especially those who played in such a grueling World Cup. I think, and this does have to do with friendly, so kind of bear with me here. I think that the scheduling of some of these friendlies, part of me thinks that, the international soccer calendar puts, I think, undue emphasis and focus on friendlies, regardless of, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in CONCACAF, doesn't matter. I think that there are a lot of tournaments around the world that do not take the season into account. I think the African Cup of Nations is one of them. It just kind of drops it right in the middle of the Premier League season and European season. I think someone's going to lose out here in any of these leagues. I tend to agree with Bob on this, that these friendlies might, if you're in a championship race or a relegation battle, you are playing with fire here. I can't tell you how many times, as someone who supports, Liverpool, it would be very easy for me to see, Daniel Sturridge got on the bus and he got hurt, which is not outside the realm of possibility. But, not that Liverpool's in any race at all, but it's just maybe top four. But I think the problem is that it does disrupt cohesion in the season. However, I think that friendlies and national team programs don't care about. There's always this combative nature between club coaches and country, club versus country. I think Fergie had a really good take on some of these things when Ryan Giggs would, forego Wales friendlies to focus on lengthening his United career. I think there's a lot of problems with it. Now, personally, as a fan of the game, I see friendlies 6 weeks before the season ends as pretty useless. I don't take much from friendlies anyway, but that's kind of where I think if my key player, if I'm a club coach, gets hurt, comes back, I can't use him for 3-4 weeks. Obviously it affects everything. So again, club versus country, I don't think there's any winners, but like you guys have said, FIFA rankings are completely useless to me. I think outside the top 10, maybe, as you've said. I think on a larger picture, if it's a friendly, I would contend that people are reading too much into these friendlies, and
except
especially
that Iceland is creeping up on the U.S. We're only like 2 positions behind.
Iceland will probably overtake the U.S. I think the U.S. is in third. Or 32nd right now. Sorry, third, but 32nd. I think, and I don't know that these rankings. I don't know that I ever actually look at them unless I'm. I think we have the Cape Verde Islands are 38th.
Right.
So Guinea's 44th. Congo's 47th. So I don't know that that's an actual, accurate. Tale of how good a team is. But Bob, I kind of agree with you. I see both sides, but I do think that, is it meaningless? Yeah, but aren't MLS playoffs meaningless because over 50% of the teams make them. I mean, it's kind of shots fired there, but I mean, we could talk about the meaningful nature of
John,
matches
can I just
anyway.
ask you a question?
Sure.
How is it that international federations have more power than the club teams when it comes to this? I know it comes from a long time ago, but how is it still that they dictate to the clubs who they're going to release and when they have to release them for these friendlies? How is it still like that?
I know that for U.S. soccer, this will be an interesting fact for some of you guys. U.S. soccer actually pays its players more money than most federations do for friendlies. So if you think about, depending on what federation it is and what the incentives are for a player to get appearance fees or caps or however you want to look at it, there's a lot of writing on players getting appearances for the national team. For instance, if you are on the fringe with a European team, you're a young player, you need to get that quota filled for how many appearances you have. So I think there's a lot of inroads through FIFA that grant federations a lot of power that I don't think aligns with how a club would want their investment, the player that they're actually paying on a weekly basis, to have to go through. But FIFA is a quagmire of mystery, so there are definitely some incentives. So first is players do get an appearance fee. They do get paid, and the U.S. actually pays pretty well. Probably more than a lot of European powerhouses, to be honest. Secondly is you guys were, I was kind of listening in.
You mean that more than European international powerhouses play, not the club teams?
Correct. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay,
so
yeah, okay.
And I think a lot of that goes pretty far back with when we didn't have a league, and so there's some intricacies there. But I do think that if you're filling quota for what the European Union standards are for work permit requirements and stuff like that, I do think there is value to having these international friendlies so players can get caps. I don't know where the power comes from, to be honest with you, Bob. I wish I did know the answer, but I do think that FIFA's going to always want federations that have more power than clubs that have owners that are kind of by hook or by crook, wheeling and dealing. The marketplace the climate of club football is extremely crazy. So, not that FIFA's not, but I think that there's a lot of power given.
Well, John, everything is sanctioned by FIFA, whether it's club or country. So, I mean, ultimately, everything does have to be sanctioned by FIFA, correct? So,
yeah. So, I mean, I guess in terms of,
well, UEFA, for the club leagues in Europe, it's UEFA, not FIFA, right?
Yeah, but UEFA rolls up to FIFA.
Right. Yeah, they're right.
Yeah, if you go to an MLS game, for example, you will see the FIFA flag flying at an MLS game.
Oh, yeah, I understand they're all under the FIFA umbrella, but they do run their leagues under FIFA rules, but with their own separate identity. Like each league has their own little intricacies that are outside of FIFA, if you know what I'm saying. But the overall umbrella is FIFA at the end of the day, yes.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's a percentage, or a VIG rolls up to Sepp and his, little club at the top of the pyramid.
Which was one of my arguments that we had off air about these friendlies. It's a lot of it's just about the money, and the corporations the organizations, the national committees taking as much as they can.
Well, I do agree with you on that point, Bob. I really do. But I also believe that, back to my original point, which was that you do need time for qualifying. You do need time for these other things. There was a point in our earlier conversation that you were quite passionate about that I'd like to revisit, which was about AFCON and why they play AFCON every 2 years instead of every 4 years like every other federation does. And that one, I think, especially hurt your club, Man City, more than any other club in European competition. I just don't, Yaya Toure has not been the same player that he was going into the African Cup of Nations as he was coming out of the African Cup of Nations. And so I fail to see the point of playing the African Cup of Nations every 2 years. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, and I think 2 years before that, there was guys getting shot at on buses. And wasn't it? Somebody on Chelsea got shot on a bus on Togo or one of those teams, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the exact details of that. I'm trying to remember what that was. But yeah, it's a.
And then, like I said, every 2 years. And if they want to have it every 2 years, I guess every second year they're going to have a tournament that there should just be the players that are available. It shouldn't have to be the club teams releasing their top players every 2 years to go to this AFCON tournament.
Well, this is where I there's a part of me that agrees with you, Mike, on this. And it really focuses on the African Cup of Nations. You should not be playing the African Cup of Nations every 2 years. You shouldn't be playing the Gold Cup every 2 years. You should play these tournaments every 4 years on the off year of the World Cup. So, in defense of the Gold Cup, the only thing I'd say about that is it's MLS basically that's mostly affected by the Gold Cup, and their season coincides with it, so it's kind of like they shut it down, and it doesn't affect really the club teams in Europe and the rest of the world that much. But that's actually all of the tournaments. If we talk about the true European, if we talk about the Euro, we talk about the Copa America. Their actual tournaments don't affect the European club season either because they're played in the summers. Right, and I like these tournaments. That's what I mean. And my biggest argument is just this particular set of friendlies right this weekend. Right, yeah. Because I'm not arguing that there's not a need for friendlies. It's just this one particularly really, it disrupts the whole European season around the whole continent. But, you also had this argument, which I agreed with you on this argument during the African Cup of Nations because, like Jim pointed out with the Yaya Toure thing, I mean, even today, he came back from the African Cup of Nations. He was not the same player. He just really was not. And I think going from a year of a World Cup, and this is kind of what John hinted to, where they should have started 3 weeks later, going from a grueling World Cup in a very hot Brazil into a grueling European club season, or even the end of MLS, because MLS was still affected by this as well. Yes. No time off. Now, as a player in an African nation, you're playing in the African Cup of Nations qualifiers. You're playing in the actual tournament itself. You're playing in the European competition qualifiers. You're playing in some of the friendlies here if you're in the United States or in South America, in North or South America. So I agree with you to an extent on some of those points. Do you guys think one of the answers to some of these, well, I guess living outside of the continents where some of these, I'm going to say smaller tournaments, because to me they are smaller, but do you think they could maybe, I don't know how to say that, but do you think it could all change if they added more teams to the World Cup? Oh, you mean instead of going like a field of 32 to like a field of 48? I mean, or whatever it is that, so that some of these, the African tournament doesn't need to be every 4. It could be every 8 years if there was more African teams that got into the World Cup because they allowed more teams into the World Cup. I wouldn't agree. Does that solve anything? That's what I'm asking. I wouldn't agree with it to do that because, and I think everyone on this call would agree, the world football in terms of international play is always on a 4-year cycle, beginning with the end of the World Cup and ending with the beginning of the World Cup. Are we all in agreement of that?
Yeah.
Okay. So
yeah, I'm not in favor of adding to the World Cup.
Yeah, I'm not either.
I think European Championship should be. I think there should be more teams, though. But as I look at qualifying, it looks like the little teams are actually going to qualify, and
they're going to sneak their way.
I'm not in disfavor of adding teams to the World Cup if it means these other tournaments go away.
Yeah,
no, I love the other tournament. I have to tell you,
I like them too, but we don't. I don't know. I guess being from North America, we don't have the Canadian Cup of Championships of hockey, the Canadian Cup of baseball. Like it's not that important.
Yeah, but I think it should be
those
regionalized.
Sports aren't as worldwide as
hockey's
football.
Definitely worldwide. No, nothing's as worldwide as football, but hockey's a worldwide sport played like in a lot of countries all over Europe. all over Canada, the United States. So it's, nothing's as big as football. I'll grant you that.
I want to see the African Hockey Championships personally.
Right.
No, they don't play it because it's in the rainy season.
I have to tell you that probably the greatest experience I ever had in my life was at the Asia Cup final. And it was in 2007. I was in Jakarta, and I was at a match between Iraq and Saudi Arabia. And I bought tickets the day before the game, and I was with two Aussies, and we just sort of did it on a whim. We went to this game, and wouldn't you believe it, the entire stadium is filled with Saudi sheikhs and, all these people. They had flown in from Saudi Arabia for the finals. Al-Qahtani was the striker for Saudi Arabia. He's this famous striker. And nobody gave Iraq a chance. A war-torn country, just, nobody gave him a chance. And when you know it, our tickets were right in the middle of the Iraq section. And so we sat and watched this incredible match. And Iraq scored the only goal of the game. It was in the second half. And they win the Asia Cup. And I have to tell you, it was the most amazing football experience of my life. Mm-hmm. It was incredible. It was the best thing that I've ever experienced.
Okay, so maybe I misspoke, and maybe I shouldn't have said these tournaments should go away, but maybe they should only be played outside of the World Cup with the players that the club teams agree to let go to these international teams. And other than that, with the tournament still goes on, but with the players that are available for the countries to play at that time in the tournament.
Okay, my only argument...
Well, that's kind of what the Olympics are, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of thing that the international friendlies and these, I know if you live in Africa, it's not a smaller tournament. If you live in Asia, it's not a smaller tournament. But it is outside of the World Cup, for lack of a better term, a smaller tournament. So maybe these smaller tournaments need to be played with Olympic rule type rosters. Whoever's available is available, pro or amateur. But it means Yaya Toure doesn't go to the African Cup of Nations every 2 years in this case, but even on a 4-year count, some year he's just not going to be there. He'll be there when he's 32 at the end of his career. Well, that's just the way it is. Then if you want to see the best, then you go see what I'm saying is the top 64 teams every 4 years that are now in the World Cup. And there you get to see your superstar from every country play.
So you're saying we should get rid of the Confederations Cup?
No, just play it with the players that are available. I'm not saying get rid of these tournaments. Just they can't have the superstars in them every time. It just can't work like that.
What about the audience?
They'll see still great soccer, and maybe they'll see some guy emerge that would have never got the chance to play.
Yeah, but okay, then I would, and
the audience will see the best, the very cream of the crop at the World Cup every 4 years. That's just the way it has to be.
They don't want to wait 4 years, though.
Too bad.
Nobody wants
watch
to
the club teams and watch your friendlies that are scheduled outside of the club thing. It's just too bad. You don't get to see you don't get what you want all the time. That's just the way it is. And you watch the World Cup. And with 64 teams there, then, pretty much every country's going to be represented that's a soccer powerhouse or even close to it. Even Canada might make it under that.
But I think if you do that, it'll water it down. I mean, I would like to look at the attendance numbers for the Olympics, and also keep in mind, how do you qualify for the Olympics? It's not your full national team size.
Oh, I didn't mean not that. I meant just the other tournaments have the rosters where it's like the Olympics. Some of the best players just aren't there sometimes.
Right, but then
they're at the World Cup. That's where you'll see the very best players, like every other sport.
Well, but then you get into things like, Ryan Giggs never played in a World Cup. George Best never played in a World Cup.
But under 64 teams, that's what I'm saying. You double it.
That might be like a 3-month tournament, though. I mean, I don't know.
It's the World Cup, though. Are you going to complain?
Yeah, no, I
not
don't disagree.
The
I think
fans
if we can
complaining.
delay the season starting, we can have a 3-month tournament.
Well, I
think
guess
everyone
they would.
party for 3 months. I think that'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm on board with
Yeah,
that. But
And it could still actually, John, run in almost the same time because you would have, instead of, 4 games a day, you would just have 8 a day. That's all.
hey, I wouldn't complain.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, no, I'm just, and then I wouldn't complain either because these other tournaments would still go on. And, maybe there should be a visa system where you can only call a player so many times in a year. So if you want to waste your call up on Yaya Toure for a friendly and risk that Manchester City, because you're out of call ups now, is not going to let you have him for the Africa Cup of Nations, so be it.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
And like I said, it's just really the timing of this last set that really bothers me. It really wrecks the cohesion of the season.
Yeah. And
if one of my players comes back injured, yes, it could have happened in the club game that he got injured, but at least it happened in the club game.
No, I get it. And I think we're gonna cap this conversation in a moment. No, but
I think
just
it was
because,
good. I enjoyed it.
No,
yeah.
but I'm gonna cap it just because I think this leads me off into a good segue into a tweet that obviously you and I went back and forth real quick just before the show started. Like I said, for me to go back to Mike's point about sometimes you just don't get to see all the good players in these off years. It just sucks that City's not going to release Yaya Toure, and that's just it. And you might get to see some up and comer, but you're not going to get to see Yaya Toure. I'm gonna present the argument just quickly and no rebuttal because it doesn't matter. I know we're not changing Mike's mind, but it leads me into my segue into our tweet, John. Let's look at this from Yaya Toure's perspective. And some people do carry the passion, the national pride passion in their hearts. Some don't quite as much. For me, I absolutely do. Whereas if there's an opportunity for me to play for my country, I 100% want to go. I don't want to be told by...
Yeah, you said no rebuttal, but if Manchester City's not going to sign you to a $100 million contract because, or only if you're not going to go to the World Cup, or you're going to sign for some team in Africa for 30,000 rubles a month.
All right. Well,
I think you're probably going to forgo your national team and sign with Manchester City. So the pride thing's, it is big, but money's still bigger.
Okay, I'm gonna present the other side of the argument this way. So let's say Yaya Toure says, "Screw you, Man City. I'm going to play for the Ivory Coast in this tournament because it's my country and my country's called me." And City says, "Okay, you're gone. You're off the books. We're not paying you anymore. We're ripping up your contract and throwing it away." How many teams in the world?
No, that's why they would have to have something in place that, no, he can't do that. It's under contract that if he signs with Manchester City, he's agreeing to forego playing in an African Nations Cup.
If that's in the contract.
That's what I'm saying. They need to have that written up like that. They're not allowed to because international soccer takes precedence for some reason over the club teams at every level. But I'm just saying that's what needs to happen.
I was going to say
what would be the point of him signing up for the club anyway?
Right. I probably wouldn't
For
sign
what
the contract
club?
at the club. Let's ask John.
For what club, Rob? No, hold on. For what club, Rob?
If Yaya Toure wanted to sign for Manchester City and that was in the contract stating that he cannot represent his national team, he can only play for the club. Do you think he would? You think he would sign?
If that's the only contract that's offering him £100 million, you know what? You
He'll
don't
probably
think,
go-
I'd rather play for the African national team, Ivory Coast national team. Yeah, of course he's taking £100 million.
Some people are not. Some people would not be that.
You're
ludicrous.
That's crazy.
But all right, let me
let's ask the other three that same
No,
question.
I want to ask John this question because John is probably certainly of the five of us, John is the closest to actually having this opportunity of being at a high enough level that you're playing for a club and you have the opportunity to play for your country. Do you sign that contract if that contract says you're coming to us and here's €100 million?
And every club's got the same contract, by the way. It's no like you got to put that in there. It's not just Manchester City. You're not playing for any of the big clubs in Europe for that kind of money because they all have. Let's say they all have these type of contracts.
All right. So, John, what are your thoughts on this part of it first? This is not where I wanted to go, but go ahead with your thoughts.
All right. So the situation is I can't play for my country, only the club. Is that what the question is?
At the African Cup of Nations, not the World Cup. We're just taking
okay.
That's
and
off
it's
the
written
table.
into
The
the
World
contract.
Cup's the tournament.
I think, as a player, I think that there are two sets of values that you have. I think every player, every athlete wants to represent their country, but they also want to earn a living. And we are past the days where you can make a living playing solely for your national team. This isn't the Soviet hockey team or things that are fully funded by governments anymore, or that I know of. So I think in this regard, I think African players are very, very proud of being African. I think that to deny them the opportunity to play and represent their country in that type of competition would be a disservice to them. Now, do I know what they would sign? I personally don't think that that's a fair question.
And it's not just Africa. We're taking all these
right. So
off the table. The
minor
Asian, all of them are off the table, and you can only go if the club releases you. And maybe, like I said, there's some sort of some sort of visa system.
I think if we look at it and we're trying to find a different solution, I think you might just give them a certain number of call-ups per year, right? So they have to use them accordingly. So that's maybe one option. But I think we have to remember that a lot of these players have left home at a very young age, 16, 17 years old, been to Europe, slept on floors, played in Eastern Europe, played in some really unglamorous leagues for no money, taking a chance to leave their family. I think what we need to understand as football fans, and some of us former players and coaches, we need to understand that if you're asking these players who spend their livelihood and their best years of their life earning their wage in Europe, it might be really hard to convince somebody to say, hey, you can't represent your country this 1 month out of the year and that's just the reality of it. I think a lot of players that play for the in the Asian Cup and the African Cup of Nations, I think a lot of them have left home so early to take the chance in Europe. The uncertainty that surrounds that, I think that's one big factor. I think the other factor is, being an American, I think we take our national pride to another level with some things. I think it might be the same. I don't want to generalize in Canada with hockey, but I do think that every country is proud of representing that. Now, you get into the actual business side of it, take the emotion out. I think you would find players that would say, all right, fine. If I can earn X number of pounds or euros or dollars to not represent my country in this competition, but I can basically bank on getting that paycheck again and again and again and not jeopardizing my chance, I might go ahead and do that. Would you?
And it's not, and I just want to say, it's not really not representing your country. It's that you might not be available for this African Cup. You're still playing for your country in the time, but you might not be available. You take that chance. And that's only going to be a few players like Yaya Toure, like the big names. All the other African players could work out a deal for their lower players with the club teams. There would, some, like I said.
No, I don't think that we're trying to shoehorn anybody into saying you can't play for your national. I just think it's an interesting argument. I feel that, for the United States, I'll bring it that way a little bit just to make sure that I'm at least if I'm going to generalize, it'll be for Americans. I think we're seeing a decreased amount of, zeal to go represent your country. I think the recent friendlies or the recent competitions have been really strange as an American because you do have a team led by someone who's not an American, which is fine with me, to be honest. And it has a number of dual nationals, which if you think about it, they are just as American as legally as anyone else. But I think that the pride, the pull on the shirt, the whole patriotism, the whole idea of representing your flag, I think it's gone now. I think it's decreasing. I think players are starting to understand, like, well, hey, listen, if this jeopardizes my club career, I'm not going to do it. If this is a meaningless friendly, I'm not going over to Europe, taking away from my fitness or my, risking the chance. You wouldn't see that 10 years ago. You wouldn't have seen that 15 years ago. So this is a big debate, I think, for a lot of players. I think depending on who you ask and what you believe, you ask an American fan if a friendly matters, it doesn't matter to them at all. But then as soon as Jurgen Klinsmann's in charge and they lose to Denmark and Chile and some other teams, all of a sudden it's World War III. Everything is, a disaster, or national programs are failing, and this, that, and the other. If it's Bruce Arena, Bob Bradley in charge, and we lose a friendly, maybe it's like, well, he's just tinkering. I think there's different pressure, and I think a lot of that has to come with, the way Americans, the way even you talk about England, go that way too. I don't know that they actually care about their friendlies the way we do here. So,
and can I just add, John, that some
Sure.
bad decisions are made on the basis of these friendlies too afterwards. I
sure.
think.
Yeah, sure. I think that a country's coach, does not give any stock into what a club coach wants. The request, I think there's documentation of Fergie getting upset at the England manager, or the Portuguese manager, whatever. I think that there's a real big disrespect or disconnect or fracture between club and country coach. I really feel that that's a big thing that happens. I can't say for sure that that's the case, but I do feel that that's a real problem with what's going on here. So it gets back to, we go full circle here, though. I think that there's a lot of problems with who's got the power, who's got the right. To actually field these players the way they do. Personally, I think you're going to find there's always going to be players who are going to play for the check. I think there's always going to be players that are going to play for the shirt. So, I don't know if that answers the question, but
I think the majority play for the check.
Yeah, I think that's just this is we have
it's life
in the game now. Yeah, it's life.
It's like, you gotta, I'm not leaving my job to go play for. As much as I want to go play for Canada, I can't leave my job to go and do it.
Right, and we can't
every
ask
week. Yeah.
We can't ask people to do things that we would do ourselves. I mean, I never got paid to kick a ball, so I can't say. But I do know that a lot of players leave home so early that any chance they get to represent their country, it's a big deal. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully that answers the question, but it might not.
I think so.
What was that random soul singing there?
Something. I don't know. I heard it in the background, but it wasn't me. So, real quick before we move any further, I just want to send out, because obviously what we're talking about has sparked a little bit of a debate on Twitter as well. So, a couple of the guys, I just want to send shouts out to that I know they're listening. A couple of my favorite follows, Clinical Costa, or at Clinical Costa Liam, and Jack, who's also known as at Jack Fremy, have been debating or chatting also with a new guy that I haven't seen before now that I follow is El Crisco, guy named Luca. And his comment was, putting a non-international clause in the contract, come on. I think there's a part of me that in the end I think he's right. But, Mike, I get where you're coming from, is, especially being able to limit these guys and their ability to, where the clubs would actually still hold the rights and saying, okay, you've got five dates every year. You can have them for 5 dates. In a non-World Cup year, you can have them for 5 dates. That's it. And otherwise we get them. And then, the clubs dictate what they can and can't do. So, I want to, again, I was trying to segue into that tweet, John, and obviously we got sidetracked again. And there's, like we talked about, the pride factor of playing for your country. One of the tweets that you talked about today is guys having the, I should look it up real quick. I want to look up the tweet itself just so that I can read it, accurately. But of course I can't find it now. But it was
it's one about decreased, they're not as happy playing for the national team.
Well,
one?
No, the one where they have the option to go and play for somebody, play for another country when they have
double nationality.
Yeah.
When did I tweet today?
I'm looking for it now.
Well, let me ask you this.
Go ahead. While I'm searching it, go ahead.
Okay.
If you're let's do an example, Brazilian American, would you want to play for Brazil or the United States, or basically the first country that calls you up?
Oh, that's a good one. I think it depends on a lot of things, but I would personally, I probably identify with, well, it gets back to our original discussion. What country gives me the platform to further my career the most or get more in the spotlight? So I think if you look at the current state of play here in America, I think most of these dual nationals are not going to be playing for Germany. They could play for the United States, which I have opinions on. They're strong opinions. I think that definitely underserves the American player to some degree. It kind of gives this message where I'll go on record and say it that this Gideon Zelalem guy, if he's not featuring for Arsenal and he's able to walk onto our national team at the senior level, I think that's a bunch of crap, personally. So, but I've seen video of him playing. I haven't analyzed him, but I think that the message is if you are a dual national and you play for Arsenal's youth team or whatever, that should not be the pathway. Same with Julian Green. I mean, I've seen nothing out of Julian Green in CONCACAF competition that suggests that he's our savior. I think Americans have a, and I will answer the question, but I'm going to get this off my chest, is Americans have this inferiority complex where we think there's some golden child. We had it with Freddie Adu. We've had it with, a number of players. I think when Giuseppe Rossi decided to play for Italy, everyone wanted to, there's a lynch mob out for him. I think a couple of other players who opted to play for, Serbia. There's a player that opted to play for Serbia because he didn't get a call for the U20s. I think what we need to understand, if you are like a dual national, if you're Brazilian American, if you have the chance to play for Brazil, I think that's a no-brainer. I think you're going to play for Brazil. If you can be part of that, pull that shirt on with the history, the 5 World Cups, no-brainer. I do think, though, that we get into this weird no man's land where we have players who are looking to play and play for a long time. And I think I have no problem with a player with a father who's a serviceman overseas and a mother who's from that country playing for the United States. No problem with that. If that's the best that we can do, well, so be it. It's beautiful. That's what America is, a melting pot. We are not a everyone here is an immigrant, and so I have no problem with that. However, I do think that players are going to identify with the country that raised them. So there's a football argument, and then there's the actual who do I represent as? Am I Brazilian or am I an American? And I think that there's always this disconnect between allegiance versus loyalty, and gut instinct versus thinking with your head versus your heart. It's a tough one. I know that if it were me, I would go with the country that I felt more connected to. But I know I could ask my best friend who could say, "Hey, man, I could play 80 times for this country, and I might play 3 times for that country." So there's an argument there. It's pretty testy, to be honest.
Okay.
So, John, I found the tweet. It was 7 hours ago. You had tweeted, "When I hear kids say they'd love to play for other countries other than the U.S. if they ever were to be pros, it's clear we lose kids early." And then later on, as a response to Robert Burns, you said, "Point is, kids don't connect sense of national pride with soccer the way they do with other sports."
Yeah. So my nephew was born in the United States. He holds an Irish passport. He wants to play for Ireland. He does not want to play for the United States. He watches more of the United States, wants to play, idolizes Robbie Keane, who plays in the United States, is set that he would, granted he's 9, if he were ever going to be good enough, he would play for Ireland. I know a number of kids that I coach who said, I would love to play for England one day, or their parents are German and they're in the military because they live near an Air Force base. They don't want to play for the United States. I think in the United States, soccer is really we're not the forefront of it. So I think like baseball, basketball, sure, players are gearing up to play for the dream team. You play for the U.S., represent their country. I think with soccer, there's a little difference. They want to play for the country that is more of the idolized country. There's this idealism that goes along with soccer. We're not there yet. We don't. Players aren't going to the store, or they're not going to buy a Clint Dempsey jersey because he's the best player in the world. They're going to buy a Clint Dempsey jersey because they love Clint Dempsey. Mm-hmm. Whereas you say, okay, well, who do you think is a better footballer? They're going to say, well, Messi or Ronaldo or Ibrahimovic. It's just we're not at this level yet where kids are wanting to grow up to be that American player at a large scale. I'm sure there's some. I don't want to generalize, but I do feel that there's this big problem with. It's not a problem. It's just an issue that I think that personally there are not a lot of kids who are growing up saying, I want to play for Team USA or the U.S. men's national team, especially if they're on social media, because the fractions and the subcultures are kind of crazy. So that's what I meant by that. I think if you look at the sporting landscape in the United States, I think in any arena, we'd love to represent our country at any sport. But I do think that with soccer, if you have a Brazilian American or an Argentine American, I think they'd rather represent the soccer power than their actual country of their birth.
Okay.
So,
you see, I always think, because I actually, if I was ever good enough, I actually have the opportunity to go dual national. Rob, you do as well, I believe.
Yep. Yes, I do.
So I'll ask you first. Obviously, you were born in the United States of Paraguayan descent. If you had a choice, and you were good enough to play for both sides, okay, because that's going to be part of the equation as well, would you play for the U.S. or would you play with Paraguay, and why?
Well, going back to John's statement in regards to where I want to be would definitely depend on the future I have for the rest of my career. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to say, whoever calls me first.
Okay.
Whoever calls me first.
That's interesting. So I am born American of Italian descent. I'm Giuseppe Rossi, just really not as good. Okay, it's what it clearly comes down to. And I've got to say, as much as I hated the fact that Giuseppe Rossi left the United States to go play for the Italian national team, I would have done the same thing. I would have, and I'll tell you why. And it's only one specific, very selfish reason, and it is that at this point in time, I have a better chance to win the World Cup with the Italian national team than I do with the American national team.
Barely.
I doubt that it's barely.
But don't you want to be part of history to win the first ever World Cup for the United States?
You're going to be part of history no matter where you win that cup. That's historical.
One would have more significance than the other.
Would it?
A first World Cup ever against five?
I was 10. I still talk about Paolo Rossi. Okay? I was 10. And I was an American, and I still talk about Paolo Rossi. The historical significance will be there no matter what. I'm sure. Let's look at let's look at Brazilians when they won the cup in 2002. Don't you think they still talk about the 2002 World Cup?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh, no doubt about it. So, it's that would do it for me. Is
I actually think a World Cup win would be long remembered outside of the United States than inside the United States. So winning for another country is probably better in terms of long-term. That'll be forgotten about in the United States.
I don't think so.
I do, because soccer's not that. Nope. As much as we love it, it's minor league.
I'll give you I actually disagree with you, and I will give you an example. The 1980 U.S. Men's Olympic team. That's it.
Mm-hmm. What about it?
They made a movie about that 25 years after it happened.
It was 1980. Was that the Jim Ralph year?
Yeah, that was.
But that was hockey. Like I said, that's a bigger sport in the United States than basketball.
But not at the time.
That's a major sport in the U.S.
today.
It was then too.
Oh yeah, come on. They always had the teams.
I don't think hockey was quite as big then as it is now.
Oh sure, it was.
No,
maybe not. I'll give you that. It wasn't as big.
You got to remember
the
NHL
East Coast. It was always huge.
The NHL and the WHA were two separate entities. Even I think up to that time, you had two leagues, which again will take us back down into soccer, into NASL and everything. And John, I know you don't have much time to stick around, but we will have to. John, I know you have to go. But we should have you back and further this discussion, without a doubt, if that would be okay.
Unfortunately, John had to run.
John did have to run. Okay.
Yeah, he had some personal stuff he had to do tonight.
Yeah.
But
no, that's
cool.
It
was a lot of fun, anyways. I enjoyed it.
So that's my only point with that is is the fact that we can, for me, with the dual nationality thing, I would have to. I would choose Italy. I would certainly do it all day because I would want.
I am a dual citizen, actually. My mom's American-born and still lives in the United States.
Okay, so you're Tesho Akindele.
Yeah, and I would too. Well, only because of, for I guess the same reasons he's chosen the United States, is because I've spent most of my life in Canada, so I would choose Canada.
Okay, no,
and I would actually, I could probably make Canada now.
Yeah, and I think that. But I think that's.
I don't know about that. I saw Canada play. They're pretty good.
We're getting there, but we'll see.
No, I think that's kind of what happened with the Tesho Akindele situation was that.
That's what I'm saying. I agree. I can't really fault him. He grew up in the United States, spent most of his life there, so
right.
But he'd have a better chance of playing for Canada. That's all I'm saying.
But the exact opposite argument of that situation is Giuseppe Rossi, who was born in this country, grew up in this country, played in this country, learned in this country, and then when he was eligible, went to Italy. And I don't.
I wonder if he'd make that same decision today, given how much bigger U.S. soccer is than when he made that decision.
And what's the situation with Diego Costa?
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because Diego Costa has actually played for both sides.
Yes, he has.
He played for Brazil,
but he played when he was a youth. He played under 21.
No. He played senior level. He played senior
friendlies.
Level.
Yep.
Yep.
He
played
friendlies.
You can play friendlies. Yeah, they don't count. No, they don't count again.
I know.
You can play a friendly for a country and then still switch to another country.
It just sounds funny to hear.
There was a guy in the United States who was,
He's right. Competitive matches only, like qualifiers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Tournaments.
I honestly think, and even this argument doesn't hold a lot of weight. I think maybe Diego Costa thought his chances of winning a World Cup were better with Spain. I'm just thinking. I don't know. You got
look at the striker that Brazil had in the World Cup.
They had Fred.
Costa. Imagine if he was in that situation.
I thought Joe was the
Costa have a
striker.
bit of a problem.
Joe
with
came
Scolari.
off the bench. Maybe. I don't know if he did have a problem with Scolari or not, but and that could also lead into it, because if you remember, leading into the World Cup, or leading into when he made that decision, which I think was about a year before the World Cup, there was still a little bit of turmoil in the Brazilian camp.
Because of Fred, who was terrible.
Right. So maybe he didn't want to be a part of that, and maybe he looked at it and said, you know what, there's no way these guys are winning a World Cup. Spain, obviously, they were talking about them in dynastic terms, and saying, you know what, this is where I can be. And at the time, Spain didn't have a real good striker either. And what was their option? Fernando Torres? I mean, good God. If I had Xavi passing me the ball and I had Iniesta passing me the ball, I could probably net a few for the Spanish national team. Okay, and I'd be a fat blob at the 6, but I would still get them in. So I think he probably looked at the situations and said, you know what, I think my options are better there. And according to Luca on Twitter, he's saying that Diego Costa felt wanted by Spain. From what he remembers, Brazil apparently made no effort to get him on board. And I do believe that. I can't remember exactly, but I do believe that might have been the case as well.
Yeah, and that was something to do with Scolari, I think, if I remember right.
Okay, that is certainly a probability, not a possibility. So there, it goes into that dual citizenship thing, and you have an option. But I think, Rob, for you and I, actually more for me, I don't know that. Obviously Paraguay's missed the last few World Cups, and they have to qualify out of a brutal region in South America.
We only missed, well, not really missed. We made 4 consecutive World Cups. We only missed the last one.
Oh, okay. You have to remember every team, so it's tough. But think about it. When you have to go up against, Brazil and Argentina every year, who are absolute powerhouses in the world, not just in South America.
Oh, can I just pause it for 1 second? Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What is the hardest qualifying process for the World Cup? In which region?
I think South America.
Mike?
South America or Europe. They're both pretty hard.
Yeah, Europe's pretty hard, but they qualify so many teams that I think I think that it's not as difficult. And usually the better teams in Europe actually, I don't want to say get a free ride, but get a much more favorable opportunity, let's say. Okay, and even if you don't finish top in your group, or don't finish in the top 2 in your group in Europe, you still become one of those last 8 teams that get to play, head to head to qualify. On top of that, I mean, look at how Portugal got in over Sweden this year. Was playing head to head after they finished, if I remember right, 3rd in their group. Mm-hmm. So
what about Oceania? Seriously.
I think Oceania's tough. I do think they're tough.
I mean, seriously, they get half of a qualifying spot.
Right.
So they end up having to play the last team out of South America.
Yep.
I believe it was this time.
Yeah, that is correct, and it was Uruguay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's one heck of a last team to play. And again, Liam Clinical Costa is adding that Scolari claimed he asked Costa to play. However, Costa claims he never got a call about it. Scolari didn't call. Scolari also said he turned his back on Brazil. So, I guess like Mike, to your end and to what you were saying is, it sounds like there was a little bit of rift between Scolari and Diego Costa, which then said, well, Spain wanted me to back up what Lucas said. Spain wanted me, so I'm going to go play for Spain.
I would prefer players to play for the countries they were developed in. That would be my preference.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Overall. Right. So if you're a product of Brazil or Argentina or the U.S. or whatever, Germany, then I would prefer that it were the honorable thing to do that you play for that country.
Right.
But
If that's one of your nationalities, you mean, though, right? Not just like an American-born player goes and hones his skill in Brazil. You don't mean he should play for Brazil. You mean given that he's got the choice.
No, I mean, if you're, like, for example, let me throw out Aaron Johansson, right?
Uh-huh.
In my mind, he's Icelandic.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I
yes.
mean, he was born in Alabama. He was mostly developed in Iceland, played in for AZ Alkmaar. I mean, he did not spend that much time in the U.S.
But does he have any Icelandic nationality ties, like his mom or his dad or anything?
I think
Yeah,
he does.
they were students in Alabama when he happened to be born here.
So he doesn't have American parents.
No, he has
Icelandic
Icelandic parents.
Okay, so I can agree with that part of it.
Yeah.
But what if he was just an American that went there and with American parents and just played there? Then he should still have to play for America, though, right? Regardless, because he doesn't have any ties nationally to Iceland, say.
Well, what's considered American nowadays?
No,
Well,
what I'm saying is, if you're, it doesn't matter where you're born. It matters where you're developed. So if you grew up in Iceland or Germany or wherever, that's really where you're from. It doesn't matter where you're born. It matters more where you're from, where your youth club was, where your people are, where your family lived in your formative years. To me, that's what counts more than, to me, Diego Costa, even though he plays for my team, he should be playing for Brazil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In that scenario.
Right, because that's where he was developed.
Right.
Yeah. So, I think it's a personal choice. I get, Jim, I get your argument, as to where, the country that developed you, the country that paid for your development, which is going to be a nice segue into what you've been on lately or been working on lately, should have, I would say, right of first refusal because you're taking that country's money to develop as a player. So I do see that side of the argument. I feel like we'll just, if we go back to our initial discussion on this, for me, it's a personal choice. Because in the end, there is and obviously it's the romantic side of the coin. There's a sense of personal pride. There's a that kind of thing where there's a you feel that tie to that nationality. So now I don't know, for example, I don't know if Aaron Johansson thinks to himself, you know what, I feel like I'm more American than I am Icelandic. That's a personal decision to me. I think Diego Costa's version of the decision is very different. I think
what makes him eligible to play for Spain?
His parents are Spanish descent, if I remember correctly.
Okay, well, I don't have that big of a problem.
I think. Yeah, Rob, if you want to research that real quick, I think he does have a Spanish tie. It's not a development thing with Diego Costa because he was, like we said, he was developed in Brazil, but I think he's of Spanish descent.
Nope.
No? Okay.
Not at all.
Really?
Nope. He's full Brazilian.
Oh, then I'm wondering where the tie is to get him to play for Spain.
I think he's.
I believe he's. I'm sorry, Rob. I believe he's a Spanish citizen now.
Oh, okay.
If you I think if you play a certain amount of matches for a country that you play for as a club, and you don't get called up by the national team of your birth, you are eligible for the club in the country you're played for.
Okay.
Wow.
So now you know what? Harry in Twitter just posted this. What about Adnan Januzaj? His family's from various countries, and he's been developed in a few different countries.
Well, then I guess, like you said, it comes to personal preference as long as you meet. Yeah. The rules need to be set out a little more stricter, I guess, or at least a little better defined. And then if you meet it, it's your personal decision which country you want to play for.
And obviously, Januzaj chose.
But once you made that decision, that's it. Once you play, that's it.
Right now,
the rules are one thing, right? And
right.
I don't think any of us are, lawyers that I know of. But, this is about sort of honor and country and those type of things. And so for me, it's really more of an honor thing, right? Mm-hmm. So are you American or are you Italian or are you Icelandic? What are you? And, John hit on it a little bit earlier. Sometimes it's about opportunity. Could I get playing time on Germany or could I get playing time on the U.S.? That's a big question for the Germanicans, right?
Right.
And that's an important question for some of these players. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to fault any of these players who grew up on military bases in Germany and they've spent their formative years in Germany and they learned the game over there, but they're really Americans because, they come through the game, by way of the military and other means. That's kind of a unique situation to me.
Well, on the flip side, if they wanted to play for Germany, given those same circumstances, would that be okay too?
That's a really tough call,
Because earlier you said, the formative years where you toned your skills.
That, I know. That's why I'm saying it's a tough call because...
But for the player it's a tough call or a tough call for you to decide whether that's okay?
It's always up to the player.
Okay, I get you then. But you wouldn't be opposed to him playing for Germany if that's what he wanted to do, given what you said he grew up in a military camp in Germany and all that.
No. I never question another person's motives ever.
Right. Okay.
So,
I'd agree with you. Yeah, he has the choice to play for whichever one he wants to in that case.
Absolutely. Right. For me, it's whatever they want to do. That's I'm okay with that. It's some of these extreme cases that I question at times, and I think Aaron Johansson is kind of an extreme case in my opinion, because he really spent so little time in the U.S. But he, up to this point, he's made little impact. So I guess
who does he play for? By the way, does he even play on either team?
He plays for AZ Alkmaar.
No, I mean internationally. Is he on the Icelandic team or no?
No, he's on the
American team. U.S. team.
Yeah, Aaron okay. Is on the U.S. team.
Yeah, he went to the World Cup for the U.S. team.
I think he's playing tomorrow.
Yeah, he started the other day against Denmark with Josie Altidore up top.
I believe he either
got that guy. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Okay,
got a goal or assisted on a goal.
Oh, I know who you mean now. I didn't realize who you were talking about. Oh, okay.
I think he scored. I think he scored so he off of Josie assist.
But he's played a competitive match for the U.S. already?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he was in the World Cup.
Oh, in the World Cup. Right. Yeah, so I guess he can't play for Iceland even if he wanted to now, right?
No.
Correct. No, he's off the books now. So, Rob, I saw you just tweet something, a quote. Who was that? Is that Diego Costa's quote?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
I'll read it.
Go ahead.
It says, this is in terms of the Brazil-Spain citizenship debate. I hope people understand and respect my decision because it has been very difficult. It was very difficult to choose the country between where you were born and the country that has given you everything. I looked at everything and saw that it was right and best to play for Spain because this is where I've done everything. All that I've had in my life was given to me by this country. I have a special affection. Here I feel appreciated for all that I do, and I feel the love of the people.
When did he go to Spain, Rob? At what age?
19.
Oh, that's pretty old.
Yeah, as I say, in the developing world, it's a few years too late.
Yeah, he's 26 now.
Okay.
What do you think about that one, Jim?
I struggle with that one a little bit.
Because he doesn't meet your criteria of
Yeah, I struggle with that one a little bit. You know,
I think he shouldn't have been allowed to play for Spain. Actually, myself.
Yeah, given the facts about his descent. And,
I don't think he should have been eligible for Spain, given that criteria that Rob just said, or a few minutes ago.
I mean, I assume that legally it's been covered, but
right.
You know,
Well, I want to fast forward it because I want to segue into player development.
Given that, almost every Canadian, and Canada would have almost access to every player in the world.
Yeah, right.
Most of them come here to play their junior hockey and then end up in the NHL, right?
It's true. So they would all be able to play for Canada.
Just about under those criteria that Diego Costa was, yeah.
Yeah. So, Jim,
not everybody, but a lot of them.
I want to segue into player development by asking you about a player because this is the player that is kind of hot on everyone's list right now. Is Gideon Zelalem over at Arsenal?
Sure.
He's another Jamaican. I kind of like that term.
Yeah.
But
I didn't invent it. But I just stole it.
But I don't remember the German Federation fighting over Julian Green like they are over Gideon Zelalem. They actually recalled him. They called up Zelalem for this most recent round, I believe.
For the U19s.
Yeah, for the U19s.
Yeah,
okay.
U19s.
Trying to get him to be tied into the German system. I don't know if he accepted or not.
Not to my knowledge,
okay.
No.
And I do believe, according to what I saw from Sunil Gulati, that I think once April 1st comes around, he's kind of going to be that free agent in that free agent window where the U.S. Federation can come and get him, which it looks like if he didn't accept that call-up, it looks like he's pointing all fingers to the United States. So I'd like your thoughts on his situation, and then I'd like to segue into what you guys are doing as well.
Well, with young players, it's always hype. So I think we have to be careful.
Freddie, you do.
Everyone is hyping, Julian Green, and then, we have to be careful with that because Bayern farmed him out and he hasn't gotten a lot of playing time. Mm-hmm. So, we need to be very careful. I think in the U.S. we have a tendency to, we have a tendency to see Messi everywhere, and it's very rare that those players actually turn out to be something great. We live in a time where we have these handful of truly great players, and we're very lucky to live in that time, right? With Ronaldo and Messi. Ibrahimovic and Messi, and these are truly special players in the game. And so we think that these guys just fall off trees. Well, they don't. And these guys have to be developed. And so when we see young talent like this, we shouldn't believe all the hype all the time. And so for me, he's a talented kid. Let's just see where it takes us, and let's leave it at that is what I say. Because everybody's going to hype everybody, and I don't let any of that really excite me too much.
Right.
I know that's probably not the answer you were looking for, but
no, there is certainly a piece of that I truly agree with, because we don't know what we're going to get out of these kids until it actually comes to fruition. So I agree. I agree. But at the same time, I know that these federations, if this Gideon Zelalem is the next Lionel Messi, which again what is he, 17, I think.
Yeah, he's 17. Yeah,
I think it's still a little on the young side. I think Julian Green is 19. On the Julian Green side, we would have started to see these flashes, and I think that he's a little bit more of a serviceable player than let's say a Lionel Messi, but the Zelalem.
Julian's only played like 105 minutes this season. Mm-hmm. So where's he? Hamburg, I believe.
He's at Hamburg now. So one thing I want to mention, JJ
I think
Devaney,
he turned 18 in January, and he has a 63 FIFA ranking.
So
with an 80 potential, so they definitely don't see Lionel Messi in the future.
He's 18. Yeah, Zellman's 18.
And I just want to mention on Twitter, because I know we've got a few listeners. We've got JJ Devaney and Jack Fremier still listening. And JJ tweeted that it was a far more complex issue than that. And I think they're talking about this youth development thing that we're talking about. So I'd like to get, if JJ wouldn't mind tweeting out, a little bit more of a deeper explanation about it. I would really appreciate it. But Jim, I want to get back to you because let's make a couple of big announcements here.
Sure.
Since we last spoke to you, you're podcasting.
We are.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
So Year Zero Soccer, which is the organization that John and I and a few other folks have started, is now podcasting. Mm-hmm. We've got a handful of podcasts up, and we've got some upcoming guests that are going to be great. We released a podcast today with Paul Camerata, who was the youth coach at Red Bull.
Okay.
He's now taken a job at a club in Kansas City. So that podcast hit the waves today. Mm-hmm. But the other announcement is that we have made an agreement with the website These Football Times, and we are going to be doing the North American content for These Football Times.
Right.
And so there was an article released today by John Townsend, which is about how you would spend $100 million on a football club in North America as opposed to spending it on the MLS.
Yeah,
and so it's a very fascinating look at what you could possibly do instead of spending $100 million with MLS.
And we read this. I read through this article, and Rob, I think you read through it. And just before we got on the air, Mike, you were skimming through it. So and I'm just going to tweet the link to the article now. It was, go ahead and I'm sorry to cut you off, but go ahead and let's talk about it a little bit more. But then I'll give you my thoughts. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, no, it's it's a fascinating look because what we have in here in North America and between the U.S. and Canada is, of course, single entity structure with $100 million buy-in, and if you look at it from that point of view, what you could do with $100 million instead of buying into this single entity structure, what could you do with that money instead of buying into that? What are the possibilities? And that's kind of the angle that John took with the article. And it's a really fascinating look. And that's just the kind of content that These Football Times brings to the internet. These Football Times is a really great site. They've been bringing content for a number of years. It's run by a guy named Omar out of England. He's currently with QPR. He's a coach with QPR right now. Mm-hmm. And they're associated with The Guardian. And so what we've done is we've made a cooperative agreement with them where they're going to be providing a place for our content, and we're going to be providing a place for their content, and we're going to share share those stories with each other, and we're going to be providing a place for their writers to come onto our website, which is yearzerosoccer.org, and we'll be opening up our website to for folks to come in and read about world football and development and youth soccer and all those things. Okay. And so it's very, very exciting for us because these Football Times and the original coach are kind of recognized as a very high level approach, long format essays on all aspects of soccer. So it's really exciting for us.
Okay. And tell us where we can go and listen to the podcast. I know you don't do it live like we do here, because we were talking about it earlier, but where can we go find it?
Yeah, you can go right on our website, which is www.yearzerosoccer, all one word, .org. And we've got links right off there. It's also on SoundCloud. So if you look on SoundCloud, it's hashtag #YearZeroSoccer. But we've got a number of them out there. We've got some of your friends on there, like Dre Cordero. Mm-hmm. We've interviewed Eric Imler from the U.S. men's national team. He was a member of I believe it was the 92 Olympic team, okay. I believe. We interviewed Michael Agavino. So, we've got some really interesting stuff out there, but for us, it's just so exciting to be associated with Omar Salim and these Football Times. It's just, it's heady days for us right now.
Yep. No, it's fantastic that, that you guys have gotten to this point, and you've done a great job with it for sure.
Oh, thank you.
I do want to touch on the article that John wrote, the cost of $100 million. I thought this was a fantastic article. And then Rob and I were starting to talk about it a little bit earlier. And the reference to the cost of $100 million is what it costs right now to purchase a franchise in MLS. And I like what John had to say about, MLS really doesn't care as long as you write the check first, okay? Then give us where you're putting your stadium. Then give us, this, and then give us that, and then you can put the team out there. But first and foremost, write the check.
That's right.
So what can you do with $100 million instead of buying into MLS? And this is kind of what we're talking about. Rob and I were talking about that. Obviously, you can get into NASL for much, much less money. Okay, it's a fraction.
NASL costs you. I'm not. Don't quote me exactly on this, but it's between $2 and $3 million franchise fee.
Yeah, in comparison, it's pennies.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So now we look at that, and Rob and I were talking. Let's be hypothetical. You get a stadium that you can rent out for X amount of dates, even if you do like 10 or 15, just so that you can have the Open Cup play. So you're in NASL side in the United States. Let's even say. And you have a stadium rental where it's a few million. What you do is you take the rest of your money and dump it into the team itself. And I don't mean the team like, infrastructure and that sort of thing. You buy 23 players. 23 players that'll sign you a 1-year contract for X millions of dollars that you can actually, that are top quality players. I mean, I think, just a name that's going to come to mind real quick, Mario Balotelli. Okay, right now, sure. Mario Balotelli, you call him up and you say, Mario, 1 year, here's $10 million. Okay, you're our striker. You don't think he jumps to the United States, to the NASL for 1 year for $10 million, and then he can go back to wherever he wants. But for 1 year, $10 million, he's here, and you build a team like that. Okay, now you play your 30-odd games in NASL, but what you do is because you have a team of high-profile players. You take that team and say, okay, on the international week, Mike, you take that team and you run over and play Manchester City in Dubai, like they did over one of the breaks, if you recall, and you go and play Juventus over at Juventus Stadium, for whatever type of game, and you can make more money than that. You still play in the U.S. Open Cup, and you will probably make back the $100 million plus in ticket sales and in revenue just on playing all those other big clubs. That you now have a batch of $100 million worth of players, and you've made the money back. You've basically played the year for free. Rob, I again, you and I talked about this a little bit. If you want to expand a little bit more on what we were talking about, what are your thoughts?
In regards to
in regards to the proposal of being able to just take a team and the $100 million, and instead of buying into MLS, doing something else.
So you're being your own independent club.
Yeah, you're being your own independent club.
Well, that's, in a way, it wouldn't work because you're looking at other teams that don't have that privilege.
Right. No,
so
you don't. But I'm
it
saying
wouldn't fit well.
Right now, you've got $100 million in your pocket to do some type of football team project in the United States. Okay. Mm-hmm. Do you buy into MLS or do you do something else?
Well, I guess the first question would be: is $100 million enough?
Well, it's enough. It's enough to buy into MLS.
If you're going to be if you want to be part of MLS, then so be it. I mean, regardless of money,
right? Right, but that's my point. Do you buy into MLS and then have to take more money through investors to grow that team, or do you do something different? Do you go into NASL and compete for much less?
Rob, do you think there's a better way to spend the $100 million than buying an MLS franchise?
Right,
but still using it for football.
Yeah, absolutely.
Inside the United States.
But then going back to what you're saying. In what would they do in NASL? What would be the point? There's no promotion relegation.
Right, but they would be, but the option right now is to buy into MLS, or do you do something else with the money?
And then you might have missed where Joe said you sign a couple of big name players or one big name player for 1 year for $10 million. And bring them over.
Look what the Cosmos did this year. They signed Raul.
Yeah.
And yeah.
So that's what he's asking. Do you think it's better to do what the Cosmos route and a few of the other teams outside the MLS are trying to do, or would you rather use your $100 million and go the MLS route?
It's all the club's decision. That's what I ultimately think.
No, it's you that has the money. It's
you are the club.
That you have $100 million right now.
You are the club.
And you need to decide what you're going to do with it as an owner. As the prospective guy, do you want to buy MLS for $100 million, which you could buy a franchise for, or would you rather go into some other aspect of North American soccer, USL, NASL, something like that?
I'd buy MLS. I'd buy MLS.
You'd buy MLS.
I'd buy MLS.
Okay.
Yep. It would work.
Mike, what are your thoughts? Which way would you go with it?
And I'm only doing just to know, I'm only worried about 1 year, right?
Yeah, 1 year.
I'm going to go the other route and have a lot more fun, I think.
Okay. Do you expect to get a return on your investment?
In the NSL or the
NASL?
NASL or USL?
Well, the USL is actually the subdivision of MLS now. So,
well, I would actually think you could build a pretty good team in those other 2 or 3 levels for less than $100 million, actually.
I do too. Luca.
So yes, I think I could build a really good team, and no, I wouldn't expect to earn money, especially on a one-off 1 year thing.
Right, Luca.
But if I was trying to build the league, I think that would be probably more interesting than going the MSL route too.
Yeah, Luca's saying he would say no to MLS and he'd pick the other option as well.
MLS, sorry.
Yeah, it's tough because I think right now the way things are structured, from an investment standpoint, from strictly a dollar and cent standpoint, you're probably better off spending the $100 million in MLS. I think in the article, Jim, I got to go look at the numbers, but I think when Seattle Sounders came into the league, they bought in for $30 million, and they've had like 173% return on investment.
But you said it was just for one-off. That's why I said that. I'm not worried. So on the one-off, I don't think you could make any money in the MLS either.
No, it's a long-term thing, and that's what I mean. In the short term, I think the $100 million is better spent in an NASL type situation.
And where do you think you'd have more fun?
And I think you'd have more fun in the NASL.
or the USL, definitely.
Yeah. I think that's without
What do you
question.
think, Jim?
No, I think you definitely have more fun in NASL. I mean, MLS is definitely restrictive in terms of what you can do with marketing and everything's got to be approved and all of that kind of stuff. So I think if I were a person who had that kind of money, I would definitely want to go in NASL because then I could do what I want, right? It's real clubs, definitely.
Oh no, I agree with you. That's what makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And if you look at the bottom line on MLS, right? They're claiming $30 million in cost for their academy system. Okay?
Right.
That's the entire league.
They're claiming that as a loss on top of that.
Right, but that's the entire league.
Right.
That's not a lot of money.
No, that's $1.5 million per team average.
Right.
Yeah, that's
so. If you kind of extrapolate that out, like
that's not even one good prospect. Really,
that's right. And so if you take that out and you say, okay, who's the best prospect that MLS has sold in the last couple of years? You say, okay, DeAndre Yedlin, maybe. Right. So they sold DeAndre Yedlin for $2-point-something million.
Even though he didn't pan out, Freddie Adu would be up there too, I guess.
Sure, but
I don't know what they sold him for in equivalent of today's dollar, but he went pretty high, right, for when he went?
For when he went, sure.
Yeah.
But, you have to talk about, when you're talking about clubs and you're talking about development, you have to say, no, if you're truly invested in development, you have to be producing players who are good enough to be transferred to the best leagues in the world. Mm-hmm. That's the way development works. Look at Chelsea, okay? Sorry, Bob, but look at Chelsea. Chelsea produces players who make the club money. That's what their academy does.
I would have preferred you said Southampton, but the point's made either way.
Fine, Southampton, sure.
I'm just kidding, Jim.
Yeah, no, Southampton's a perfect example of that, right? Mm-hmm. Southampton produces players. They sell their entire team. Guess what? The next year, they're competitive. That's the way the football world works. And if you're not thinking that way, then you're doing your academy system incorrectly.
It is actually what Carl Robinson has said that he is trying to achieve with the Vancouver Whitecaps. That's exactly what you just said, developing players to sell them.
That's the way the football world should work, right?
But he comes from Europe, so.
Yeah, that's how it should work. It shouldn't be, NCAA players coming out at 23 when they're 4 years past the time that you can actually develop them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're at that point they need to be developed. They're done. It's the cake in the oven. Don't let it overcook. You've overcooked them at that point. There's no more cooking to be done.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys follow Amiichi Igwe. But
I don't, but I saw you tweet about. I think it was you or John tweet about him. So I think I did click on him to follow him now.
Here's a guy who played for the New England Revolution. A product of the U.S. system. He's now playing in Bundesliga 2, and he is absolutely tweeting about the truth. Mm-hmm. He's out there on the forefront speaking about what the truth is when it comes to NCAA, MLS, development. Here's a guy who's not afraid to say, here's what's wrong, we need to fix it. And he's a product of this system. Mm-hmm. And he's getting some people's attention, he's tweeting pictures of him and Taylor Twellman, he's pictures of him and, he's not a guy who's like on the outside. He's a guy who played with all these players, a guy who's still playing competitively in Europe. So, it's someone that we need to listen to and someone who has really intimate knowledge of development, how to develop, what's right, what's wrong, here's what we should do, someone we need to listen to.
All right. So I'm just going to put that out there one more time because I want to make sure that I am following him. Do you have his Twitter feed?
I believe it's at Aigwe, AIGWE2, if I'm not mistaken.
Amiche Igwe. Yep. Yeah, it is. Let me. I just clicked on it here, but of course, AIGWE2, just like you said. So I'm gonna copy that. I'll tweet that out, and also follow him at the same time. So it's
a great account. He just returned to the Twitter sphere. So and he's not afraid to speak the truth. So it's a great follow. Everyone should follow him.
Yeah.
He's speaking the truth from Germany, which is unfortunate. I wish, he's saying things that, according to him, that MLS players said in the locker room, but are afraid to say because, they're afraid of their job.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when is your next podcast coming out?
Well, one came out today.
Right.
We've got Kefren Fuller lined up. If you guys know Kefren, he's a great coach in Washington, D.C. area.
Yeah, we actually got to have him on the show eventually here.
Oh, you should. He's terrific. Kefren he runs the Joga Soccer Club in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. We've also got Amiche lined up, hopefully for an interview.
Okay.
And we've got Terry Mickler, who's a soccer coach in St. Louis, lined up.
Okay.
On our podcast, we try to keep it about coaching and development, and it's less about entertainment and more about kind of more of the coaching side, right? More of the development side. So it's a little bit, it gets a little bit into the details around the soccer world at times.
Okay. No,
but it's, hopefully people learn something. I do every time we do one. I learn a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I got to listen to a few minutes today. I didn't even know, and you and I communicate. Oh God, Jim, what, weekly at least?
Oh, at least, yeah. I mean, you and I communicate all the time.
And I didn't know you were 5 episodes in. I was like, holy crap, we've got to talk about this. We got to, we definitely got to get it out there and make sure people know about it, man, because it's such good stuff, and we always enjoy talking to you, obviously, and for those that don't know, you and I, when I do these shows, you and I kind of chat behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, I love your guys' podcast. I'm tuned in 90% of the time. Last week I wasn't able to, but I'm tuned in almost every week, and I really love it.
Yeah,
and
you're all right for a Chelsea fan.
There it goes.
Hey, man, my Chelsea fandom goes back a long ways.
So,
but you're not a headhunter, right?
No, I am not a headhunter.
All right.
And I know that firm, and I do not subscribe to that.
Yeah. So I guess, Jim, the last thing is, obviously, if you wanted me to let you go, I can, or if you want to stick with us as we hit our league coverage, and then we'll get our trivia answer in.
I think after this, I'll probably sign off. But right. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Cool. No, so I was going to say, if there was anything else you wanted to add about Year Zero Soccer before we let you go.
No, it's just, we're going to, and since you are in the Northeast, we're planning on a fundraiser in New York City soon.
Okay.
Which I'll keep you absolutely up to date on. But yeah, we're gonna have a fundraiser probably in late June, early July in New York City.
Okay.
And we'd love to have you as an honored guest. I believe you and Roberto, are you guys both in Connecticut?
Yeah, we're both in Connecticut. He's much closer to New York than I am, but obviously, not much more than a 2-hour drive away. So
we'd love to have you down. We'll probably do some sort of auction kind of thing. Just have some fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And Mike, I don't know if you want to make the journey all the way. Actually, you know what, Mike? You could make the journey too through Victor Ramden.
Yeah, it's just as long as the World Series is right around then too. So I just have to check my dates. But I'd love to come. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, more the merrier. So as we get closer to the event, I will definitely make sure you guys are there. We're just going to have some fun and try and raise a few bucks for this nonprofit we got going, and try and get some kids involved in soccer and keep the ball rolling.
All right, definitely. What we'll do is we'll definitely have you on before you when you announce the fundraiser so that we can pitch it here on the show.
Terrific.
Awesome, Jim.
I always appreciate it, Joe. You guys are the best. No. I mean, I really appreciate all the support you guys have given us.
No, thank you. The same, likewise from us, man. So we'll definitely be in touch, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for the debate, Jim.
Hey, oh, no problem, Mike. Take care.
All right,
you too.
See you, Roberto.
See you.
And that was Jim Hart from Year Zero Soccer. Guys, I got to tell you, we've had such an awesome conversation, which actually was 2 hours long, amazingly. It almost makes the rest of the show plan seem kind of, unimportant. You know what I mean? But let's do a few minutes. Obviously, we're going to cover our leagues quickly. There were no matches to speak of in Europe. Obviously, we had some MLS matches this week, so we'll definitely talk about that. We'll look at our week ahead.
Can I just add that I was surprised that John was somewhat on my side of that? Well, not my side, but on the same.
You guys were on the same page.
Process that I had, because it's really, wasn't an argument to figure out what side.
I think the argument is closer than what most people think, man. I think again, and it all depends on. I think there are a lot of factors that depend on it. I don't want to say that you don't have national pride, but I think there's a element of national pride that plays into it.
But I even think national pride gets watered down a little bit by how many of these friendlies take place.
Right. No, but I don't think it's about the friendlies. I think it's about the like I said, the feeling of putting on your nation's jersey.
Right, but it's mostly it is supposed to be for Roberto often points out that it is supposed to be for the spectator, and I think sometimes a little bit if it gets watered down.
Yeah.
Some of these friendlies.
So I think there are a lot of factors, and again, Mike, I don't think your opinion's off. I really don't think your opinion's off. I just feel like, No,
I agree with you. We're probably all a lot closer than we think, and I don't. Like I said, I don't think these things shouldn't take place. I just question the timing, especially of this one.
Right. No, I agree. So. Let's hit the leagues quickly, Rob. Okay. I'm gonna throw it over to you to give us. Obviously, like I said, there were no scores. Let's look at the tables real quick, entering into the last 10 games of the season, and obviously we're gonna cover our match of the week in that segment. So let's just look at the tables.
All right, let's go to Spain. Currently still in first place is Barcelona after their win in El Clasico with 68 points. In second, Real Madrid with 64 points. They drop out for the first time since October. In third, Valencia with 60. In fourth, Atletico with 59. In fifth, Sevilla with 55. In sixth, Villarreal with 49. Special mention to Eibar, who are currently 14th with 28 points. Top goal scorers are Messi with 32, Ronaldo with 31, Neymar with 17, Carlos Bacca with 16, and Antonio Bueno with 15. Match of the week is going to be...
We'll talk about it later.
Yep. Yeah, there we go.
There you go. So, all right, I'll run over to France real quick. And at the tables, we've got a couple of good matches coming up, but this is certainly the tightest race in Europe. Paris Saint-Germain, this is on 30 matches, so we've got 8 matches left in France. Paris Saint-Germain leading the way, 59 points. Lyon in second on 58.
And there would be 7 left, by the way.
And there you had to get that in, didn't you? Continuing on, Marseille in third place, 57 points. Monaco in fourth on 53. Saint Etienne just outside the European positions on 52 points. Bordeaux on 48. Montpellier on 45 points. Lille on 41. Nantes on 40. And rounding out the top 10 is a tie between Guingamp and Rennes at 39 points. Propping up the bottom of the table, Metz on 23, Lens on 25, and Toulouse on 32, all in the relegation zone. Lorient on 34, Evian on 35 points, along with Reims and Caen. And rounding out the bottom 10, we have Bastia and Nice, both tied on 37 points. Goal-scoring leaders in Ligue 1 right now, Alexander Lacazette running away with it, 23 goals on the league season. Zlatan Ibrahimovic in second place on 17. Andre Gignac on 16 goals. Fekir, Roland, and Beauvau on 11 goals each. Max Gradel and Yedder on 10 goals with Lucas Barrios. And Jonathan Ayew of Lorient rounding out the top 10 on 9 goals. So, Rob, back over to you for the Bundesliga table and scores.
Yep. In the Bundesliga, we had Bayern Munich still with 64 points despite their loss against Mönchengladbach in the last Bundesliga outing. In second, Wolfsburg with 54. In third, Borussia Mönchengladbach with 47. In fourth, Bayer Leverkusen with 45. In fifth, Schalke with 39. In sixth, Augsburg with 38. Borussia Dortmund are in 10th with 33 points and have not lost in their last 6 matches. Top goal scorers are Alexander Meyer from Frankfurt with 19. Iron Robin with 17. Bas Dost with 13. Robert Lewandowski with 13. And Thomas Muller with 12.
All right, I'm going to go over to...
Is it just me, or does Arjen Robben look like he's like 50?
Like a skinny 50, though.
He looks like he's been 50 for like 10 years, but he just keeps scoring and scoring and scoring.
And Mike, I'm going to give the Serie A table...
I want to say something as well. He's the same age as Fernando Torres.
He looks much older.
Yeah.
But he plays much better.
That's true.
I'm going to do Serie A before I give it back to you, Mike, for the Premier League. I do have a question that was sent to us on Twitter, so I'd like your opinion on it. All right. So let's hit the Serie A table, which we said was done and dusted, as my Juventus, with 10 matches to play, have a 14-point lead on second place. Juventus on 67 points, Roma 53 points, Lazio in third on 52, Sampdoria in fourth on 48, and Napoli in the final European position on 47 points. Fiorentina just outside that European spot on 46. Torino on 39 points. AC Milan on 38. And then rounding out the top 10, Inter and Genoa on 37 points each. Propping up the bottom of the table, we have Parma on 9 points. Cesena on 21 and Cagliari on 21. Then just outside the relegation zone, we have Atalanta on 26. And then logjam at 32 points, including Verona, Sassuolo, and Chievo. And rounding out the bottom 10, we have Empoli and Udinese on 33 points and Palermo on 35 points. Getting to that question, Mike, before I hand it over to you, the Premier League. Clinical Costa had mentioned, and this is a question for later, so we can actually...
It's going to be about Chelsea, isn't it?
It certainly is.
I knew it.
Can you guys see Chelsea dropping any points further and possibly having a close finish for the league, or can you see them pulling away and securing it? So, Mike, since you cover the EPL and you're going to lead us right in, I'm going to give you the mic, Mike, and to answer Liam's question. Do you see Chelsea dropping points and making it a race, or do you see them just running away and closing it out?
Oh, I don't see that.
Okay.
Do I think they're going to drop points? I think they have the potential to drop points in 3 games.
Okay.
They could drop points, and by dropping points, we're counting a tie, meaning you drop 2 points, right?
Certainly.
Yeah, so they could drop points against United, Arsenal, and Liverpool. I don't see why not. And then these aren't my predictions, but that was the question. Chelsea has a habit of dropping points against some of the lower teams occasionally too.
All right, so I'm gonna
something that Manchester City's fallen prey to this season too. By the way,
I'm gonna advance the question one step further. Right now, presuming that Chelsea does drop points between now and the end of the season, the 3 teams obviously there's a 3-way logjam right behind them with Man City at 61, Arsenal at 60, and Manchester United, of all people, at 59 points. Do you see any of those teams being able to catch Chelsea and challenge and make it close for the title?
You asking me or Rob?
I'm asking you. You're the Premier League guy. So you're the.
I think Manchester City can still make a race to this.
You think the other two can offer their challenge? Arsenal right now is on an amazing run. They're probably on the best run of form of anybody in Europe.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's everybody. It's wide open.
Okay, all right. So
wide open, including first place still. But obviously, if I was having to bet, or had you held a gun to my head right now, I'm going to take Chelsea. They still have that game in hand.
Oh, of course. So, Rob, I'll ask you the question: Do you think Chelsea will drop points and make a run of it here for the other teams in the to make it a close final, or do you think Chelsea's wrapped it and we shouldn't even talk about them anymore?
Well, I don't think they've necessarily wrapped it just yet, but considering the fact that they don't have any major tournaments to focus on, being eliminated in the Champions League, the FA Cup, having won the Capital One Cup.
That's true of every English side, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think with Chelsea, with the gap that they have, it's going to take, I guess, I don't want to say a miracle, but it'll take a while for any team to reach them. So I think Chelsea are going to win this.
But Manchester City's never won the title without a wild finish, if you think about it.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, definitely.
So maybe we're set. I agree with you, but maybe it's setting up for that.
Well, just
to
throw.
Like I said, the best answer I can give is if you had a gun to my head, obviously I got to take Chelsea. Unfortunately.
All right. So for me,
yes, Victor, Chelsea.
Yeah. So I think Chelsea as well. I don't see them dropping enough points. Also, there's such a battle right behind them with three teams within 2 points of each other that I don't think. I think that Chelsea will drop points, but I think as many points as Chelsea drops, I think you're going to see the other teams do it as well. It's tough. I mean, we even talk about the match this week, Chelsea-Stoke. I mean, that's no pushover. Okay, Chelsea's going to have a hard time with them. So, I can see. Yeah, Chelsea can definitely and certainly will drop points between now and the end of the season, but I think the other teams will as well because the EPL is very difficult. It's a very difficult place to play. So. That's my 2 cents as well. So, Mike, I'm going to hand it back over to you. Why don't you give us the Premier League table and top scorers, and then I'll leave it with you to go over MLS, where we actually had meaningful matches this week.
All right. You want me to do the whole table or just the top and bottom?
Whatever you like. It's your show.
All right. I'd just like to do the top and bottom. I'll do top 6 and bottom 3. Chelsea's in first on 67 points with 1 game in hand. Manchester City's in second on 61 points. Followed by the hard-charging Arsenal on 60 points. Manchester United, who Manchester City play, I believe, on April 12th, in fourth with 59 points. So that could be a big game there. That's going to be our game of the week, I would imagine, in 2 weeks. And Liverpool in fifth on 54 points. And the ever-surprising Southampton holding on to sixth with 53 points. At the bottom of the table sits the looking relegated Leicester City on 19 points in 29 games. Queen's Park Rangers on 22 points in 19th place. And just ahead of them by 3 points is Burnley. Leicester holds that game in hand too, but probably not going to help because they're playing Chelsea. And then Sunderland in 17th on 26 points. Aston Villa looking a little safer than they were a few weeks ago on 28 points in 16th place. Top goal scorers in the Premier League are Diego Costa and Harry Kane, both on 19 points. The surprising thing about that to me is Harry Kane really didn't become a starter till almost basically the new year.
Yeah, he's been completely on fire. He's going to get the start tomorrow against Italy as well.
Yes, that's. I tweeted that earlier. I watched Roy Hodgson. That was the only thing he would announce about the Italy squad. I mean, the England squad, and Conte actually named the Italian side.
Yep, Graziano Pelle going to feature for Italy tomorrow. Yep, so that'll be nice to see.
Yeah, that's interesting. In third place, Sergio Aguero on 19 points. That's more interesting now probably than title races, as Aguero can win the scoring title. If he does, that's going to go a long way to determining where Manchester City finishes, I think.
Mm-hmm.
In fourth place, Charlie Austin of the Queen's Park Rangers with 15 goals. In fifth, it's Giroux with 13. Again, a pretty good season considering he missed a good chunk at the beginning of the season. Sanchez on 13 goals. Mourinho of West Brom with 12. David Silva with 11. Rooney with 11. A player many are calling the Premier League Player of the Year, Eden Hazard with 11. Papacis with 11. And in 12th, Sacco of West Ham with 10 and Van Persie with 10. Oh, and I guess I should mention Wilfred Bonny also with 10.
There you go. All right, so take us across the pond and give us the MLS story for the week. Like I said, we actually had meaningful games.
Okay, the first game was New England and San Jose. Led by a pair of first-half goals from Kellen Rowe, the Revs, 1-2-1, captured their first win of the season with a 2-1 triumph over the Earthquakes at Gillette Stadium. Chris Wondolowski scored his third goal of the season on a second-half penalty kick for the Earthquakes, now 2-2, who saw their two-game winning streak snapped. The Montreal Impact and the Orlando City, depleted by injuries and international call-ups. Orlando City SC saw the Brazilian legend Kaká and Pedro Ribeiro combine for 2 goals in quick succession to grind out a 2-2 draw against the Montreal Impact Saturday at Olympic Stadium. Ignacio Piatti and Jack McElhinney with a highlight reel goal in the 27th minute for the Impact. Did anybody see McElhinney's goal?
I didn't. I didn't get a chance
Oh
to
my
see
God,
it.
you got to look at it. It was amazing.
Yeah?
Yeah, really good. Like I said, highlight reel goal. You should see it.
Okay.
Just go to MLS.com and click on the game there, and their
The highlight will be there.
They're like 5 minutes long, so you'll find it pretty quick.
Okay.
Next game was New York City FC and Sporting Kansas City. New York City FC's unbeaten streak came to a halt as visiting Sporting Kansas City found their way into the win column for the first time this season with a 1-0 victory. Ike Opera, who also scored a very nice goal, found the back of the net in the 13th minute, heading home along. You got to see this goal too. Matt Beasler from pretty much the corner. Did you see this one?
No, I didn't see a lot of the highlights this week for some reason.
Okay, from the corner, basically 1 foot up from the quarter line with a throw to Opera in the box, who headed it in.
Okay, wow.
Wow, what a throw! Was it Robert Is it Huth in the Premier League who used to really throw it like that? Or Higginbottom? One of them could really whip the ball halfway up the field. It was amazing.
Yeah.
So, and that proved to be the difference in that game. So 1-0 for Sporting Kansas City over New York City FC. DC United 1, LA Galaxy 0. Chris Pontius and Nick DeLeon combined for an injury time strike to stun the defending MLS champion Galaxy 1-0. It would be DC's ragtag bunch who would emerge victorious with a scoreless draw looming. DC finally found their break as Pontius was able to head home. Nick DeLeon crossed just seconds from the whistle. And I believe that was our game of the week.
Yes, it was. John Arne Reese could throw it very far, according to Liam. And
that's not who I was thinking of. There's somebody else, and I think he played for Stoke.
And
that's why.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, and who was the other one?
No, that was the only name he gave me so far.
Okay. Columbus Crew versus the New York Red Bulls. The Red Bulls left a frigid. Now, I'm not sure. Do you guys know what map-free stadium? What's map-free?
Which match is this?
This is Columbus Crew. That's the name of their stadium. MAPFRE.
No, I didn't know about the name, but that is in Columbus.
Okay, so the Red Bulls left a frigid map-free stadium victorious thanks to a historic floated effort from substitute Mike Grella, who netted a mere seconds after entering the match. The 67th minute goal was the Red Bulls' 1,000th as a club, making them the 5th MSL side to reach that mark after the LA Galaxy, DC United, FC Dallas, and Columbus have all combined to hit that mark. Bradley Wright Phillips had the other Red Bulls goal, with former Red Bull Tony Cicchini pulling one back for the Crew. Vancouver Whitecaps Portland Timbers. Robert Earnshaw made his brief debut for the Vancouver Whitecaps, a memorable one, snatching a stoppage-time game-winning goal Saturday evening in a 2-1 victory over the Portland Timbers at BC Place. Nicholas Mezquita also scored for the Caps with Fernando Adi replying for the Timber. It was a stalemate at BBVA Stadium, Compass Stadium on Saturday night as the Houston Dynamo and the Colorado Rapids struggled to generate chances in a 0-0 draw. FC Dallas and Seattle Sounders, the visitors played over 70 minutes with a man advantage after Dallas defender Kylan Acosta received a red card, but in the end the Seattle Sounders and the FC Dallas played to a 0-0 draw at Toyota Stadium. On Sunday it was the Chicago Fire and the Philadelphia Union, and a set-piece header from Adelton pushed the Chicago Fire past the Philadelphia Union 1-0 before a crowd of 12,815 at Toyota Park. A physical match between two teams looking for their first win on the season on a typically cold Chicago spring afternoon. 12,815, Joe. Low, normal.
Where was the match again? I'm sorry?
Chicago.
I would expect that. Both teams are awful. Chicago, I saw some of this match. Thank God Real Salt Lake and Toronto put on the show that they did after, because ESPN got hosed on this one for getting the Chicago Fire Philadelphia Union. Not for nothing, the MLS should go into some type of flex schedule. The top matches last week, I would say, were NYCFC, Sporting KC, DC United, LA Galaxy. The Red Bull Columbus Crew would have been a good one. And the Salt Lake TFC match, they should have put those matches on primetime and not lumped them into Saturday where nobody can see them. That's my feeling. But instead, they gave us this 5:00 Chicago Fire match, which was horrendous. I even saw people tweeting about it. Some people were like, now that the match is over, just so I don't sound biased, I'm tweeting that match sucked. It was a terrible match, so I'm not surprised by 12,000. 12,000 almost feels a little high to me.
All right, let me ask you and Rob a question. If they had promotion relegation, what three teams, now that we have a 20-team league, would you see going down this year? Rob?
This year? Rob, you first.
Yeah.
Which three teams?
Yeah.
Chicago Fire.
And just assume it's one table.
Chicago Fire,
right?
Maybe the Impact.
All right,
and this I'm trying to think of a third team. Maybe the Union.
All right, and Joe,
Chicago Fire definitely. The Colorado Rapids, absolutely. Colorado hasn't even scored a goal yet. Now, they haven't given one up either, but they haven't even scored a goal 3 matches in. Got to do something about that. I got to think that third spot would be between the Impact and the Union, and I got to tell you, just based on the CONCACAF Champions League competition, I'm going to say the Impact, because I actually think they're going to advance, they're going to get to the final, and they're going to have extra soccer to play. Which I think will hurt their form in league. So I'm gonna say the Impact would be third. So Chicago, Montreal, and Colorado would be the 3 going down.
All right. Well, I had 5 teams that I started with, and you guys have chosen same as me. Now the 3 I whittled it down to were Chicago, Philadelphia, and Colorado. But one team I think you guys left out that is probably worse than you might think just based on other years is the Timber.
They're 3 draws, 1 loss in their first 4 matches. They ended up losing this week, like you had mentioned, 2-1 to the Whitecaps. That team has too much talent for me to totally exclude them, and I don't see the Timber yet. I think it's still
a lot of long-term injuries with Portland. Guys that you think are coming back aren't coming back till like the middle of the summer.
That's true, and that could hurt them. In the transfer,
like they've got replacements hurt even for some players.
They've been decimated. So I don't know. I just think that team is still talented enough not to get relegated.
I wonder if that Montreal losing Porter is going to be a big, because he was looking so good to start the season. Callum Porter?
Yeah. No, he was looking good to start the season. I don't know. We'll have to see if it continues. It's a lot to put on.
And scored the game winner for them that got them into the Champions League, the next round.
Yeah, for Montreal.
Or the tie, actually. The goal that tied it that got them through.
For Montreal. What did they say? Torn ACL? Is that right?
Yeah, how long's that?
6 to 9 months.
So no, I believe he's Canadian.
Yeah, Liam is saying in chat, in Twitter, Chicago Fire, the Philadelphia Union, and the Colorado Rapids would be the 3 that get eliminated.
That's the 3 I had, but I also just mentioned as a side note that I don't think Portland's as good as a lot of people think they are.
Yeah, and there's that certainly could be the potential. Like I said, I think they're too talented to stay down there forever.
So I think that Cameron Porter, is Canadian, so no chance of him for the World Cup then, huh?
No.
No chance. Not if you're saying 6 months minimum.
Oh, for qualifying?
Gold Cup, sorry. Gold Cup.
Yeah, no, not for the Gold Cup. He's done.
Right,
he's done for that. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Our match of the week, DC United, LA Galaxy. Well, our predicted match of the week. Mike, you're the only one that got this one right.
Really?
Yeah, you had a 1-0 DC United.
That had
victory.
to be the simulator because I'm thinking that I couldn't have picked that.
I chose 1-0 Galaxy, and Rob went with 2-2. So,
wow.
Yeah, you can put that one in your cap. I'll tell you what. Let's. Are you all set with the scores? I don't think you are.
The scores?
Yeah. Did you give us the Toronto one and?
Oh, one last one. Yeah, I just got to give you the Toronto one, and that was the last one.
Yeah, and that was a fantastic match. If anybody saw it.
And Real Salt Lake found a game-winning goal from substitute midfielder Jordan Allen in the dying moments of the match to earn a 2-1 victory over the Canadian visitors. It was the first career goal for the 19-year-old Allen, who was making just his 5th appearance of his MLS career after missing most of last season due to injury. And if you want to discuss that referee, you go right ahead. I've had enough of MLS reffing.
I
know that reffing is bad all over the world, but I'm serious. The MLS reffing is Bush League, like really Bush League. It's a joke, for one, that the red card that Morrow got goes up against what's supposed to be a independent panel of 3. One of the people on the panel is from @Pro Referees, who had tweeted, @Pro Referees tweeted 3 days before that the foul was perfectly warranted. So how is that guy on the committee? And even if, his decision was already, obviously their stance isn't going to change from what they tweeted to what happens in what's supposed to be the appeals committee.
Right.
Yeah,
the disallowing that goal was atrocious.
And giving him the foul.
Yeah, that was...
when he was being held.
Yeah, that was awful. That was the worst call.
But I bet you Pro Referees will find some obscure angle from somewhere in the stadium that no one could ever know of that supports the referee's call.
No, I was shocked. I was shocked. So.
And then TFC, confounded themselves on that final goal. You're always at... you're most vulnerable after you score, they say, and TFC definitely fell victim to that.
No doubt about it. So
unfortunately, I think a draw, and actually I think TFC really dominated the second half, but a draw would have been a much fairer result.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. And it was a well-played match, too, but just,
And we do terrible, we being Toronto FC, since I'm a TFC fan, in Salt Lake City all the time. That's, I believe, in the last 4 games, the 11th goal we've conceded in 4 games in Real Salt Lake.
Wow.
Including 6 last year.
Now, what was I going to say? Let's throw it over real quick. I'm going to throw it over to Rob because I think we've got a couple of Libertadores matches this week, right, Rob?
We don't.
We don't? Oh, it's next week.
Yep.
All right, so then we'll hit those on Monday?
Yep.
All right, because now it looks like we're having a show Monday?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with the guest that's, soft confirmed before we started. So I think we have to have a show. So, all right, so we're going to hit the Copa Libertadores next week.
You'll be away, Rob.
Go ahead, Rob.
No, I won't be.
Oh.
Yeah, maybe the week after for Rob.
Yeah.
But
things have changed?
Yeah, they have.
Oh, okay. You'll have to let me know later.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so let's let me get my trusty pen out here, and let's start writing down some scores and picking some matches of the week, since we're going to have matches this weekend. So
Yay!
Rob, in La Liga, our match of the week is
Valencia versus Villarreal.
all right. And what do you think?
I think Valencia are going to get this comfortably win.
Okay,
2-0.
2-0. Mike, what does the simulator say? Did you simulate this
I didn't
one?
simulate them, but I also did them myself this week, so we'll see how that works. I have 2-0 also.
All right. And I didn't even look this one over, so I didn't bother. So I'll just concur with you guys and make it simple. But
Yeah, Valencia, I think, lost once at home this year.
yeah, they're
I think so.
12-1-1, something like that. I looked at the tables. They're like 12-1-1.
Okay. Marseille PSG Ligue 1 match of the week, and I put notes. There were some weeks here that had that you could have chosen more than one match, and for Ligue 1 I went with Marseille PSG, but you could have easily done Monaco Saint Etienne, which those two teams are fighting to get into the European positions. So Marseille PSG at Marseille, looking, I have to go back to look on their run of form as of late. But I do believe Marseille still kind of in the doldrums, 2 wins in their last 6, where PSG, 3 wins in their last 6, maybe starting to turn it around. They've finally taken over Lyon and taken first place in the division. PSG is also going to have, I'm not sure if they actually play their match, their European match that week, or it's the week after. So I'm going to take PSG in this one in a 2-1 victory. That's where I think it's going to go. Mike, what do you want to say about this?
Marseille 2-1.
Okay, Rob?
Marseille 1-1. Marseille.
Okay. So 2-1 Marseille.
And 1-1.
And Rob is 1-1. Okay. So let's over to the Bundesliga. Rob, what match we got?
Borussia Dortmund Bayern.
Pretty decent match.
Yeah.
So Dortmund obviously trying to climb back in, and Bayern is Bayern.
3-1 Bayern.
All right. Let's see, 3-1. Mike?
2-0 Bayern.
Yeah, I don't see. I think 2-0 sounds about right. You know what? I'm going to go 2-1. We're going to give Dortmund credit for a goal. But I think Bayern.
Tell the truth, you're betting the over.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with the over 2.5. But
right, but that's why you can't go with 2-0.
Yeah,
because then you got to bet the under.
Right, exactly. So, all right, over to Serie A, we've got Fiorentina, Sampdoria, and we could have also done Roma, Napoli, but I chose Fiorentina, Sampdoria just because these two teams are 4th and 6th, 2 points separate them. They're trying to get in. Fiorentina and Samp are both on pretty good form. Samp a little better, as they have won 4 matches straight. Fiorentina's won 3 of their last 6. They're also in European competition, so they've had a little bit more on their plate. These two teams last met in November, with Sampdoria winning 3-1 at home to Fiorentina. So this one's in Florence. I'm gonna go with the flip side victory. I'm gonna go Fiorentina 2-1 over Sampdoria in this one. Although I think this could easily be a draw.
Which is what I'm taking. 1-1.
Okay. So let's see. Fiorentina. I didn't write them down before, so. Rob, how about you?
1-0 Fiorentina.
And 1-0 Fiorentina. Okay, and then we'll go to England. Mike.
Arsenal Liverpool.
Decent match, huh?
It should be very good. And I'm taking Arsenal 2-1. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, 2-0 Arsenal.
I'm going to be the contrarian and say 2-2.
Oh, draw man.
Yep.
Okay. So let's go over to MLS.
And we have chosen the Portland Timber and the still unbeaten FC Dallas.
Yeah.
Oof.
And I am taking FC Dallas 1-0 on the road.
All right.
Keeping in tune with this very low-scoring start to the MLS season.
I'm gonna go
after 36 games, we're still averaging less than 2 goals per match.
I'm going to go 2-0. 2-0 Dallas. Rob, how about you?
2-0 Dallas.
And then we do have a Libertadores match coming up this week. We have I'm sorry. No, you know what? Let's save it for next week then.
Yeah, because there's nothing this week.
Yep, let's save it for this. Yep, let's do that. So
I gotta be honest, I've never heard of the first team.
Guarani. They're the Paraguayan side.
Oh, I've never heard of it. I only know one. I only know one player ever from Paraguay.
Okay.
Santa Cruz?
Huh?
Roque
Yeah,
Santa Cruz.
Yeah, I was going to say the person you were talking about yesterday.
Oh, we were going to have him on.
Just in case you didn't want to mention it or whatever. But yes, that's the only guy I know from
We're still going to
Paraguay.
effort that, though.
I just know Roque.
All right. So, Mike, you want to repeat the question?
Did he play for this team?
Guarani? No, I don't think he did.
No. He plays
okay.
for Cruz Azul in Mexico now.
Yeah.
Well, did he ever play for that team?
No, he didn't.
No.
Okay. Do you want me to repeat the question, Joe?
Yeah. Let's do that.
And do you have it now or just Rob?
I think I do.
I've got
Rob
it.
has it. What about you, Joe? Do you think you got it now?
I have a guess.
Okay. The question was, which two future Premier League managers partnered each other up front for the same team in the 1992 European Cup final? So why don't we do it this way? Rob, you give one name, and then Joe, you give the other
Can I
name.
give the easy one?
Okay.
Roberto Mancini?
Yes.
Okay. Mancini's one.
Rob said he had it first, so we'll leave him with the hard one.
Yes. You had
Mancini.
Mancini.
No. I was going for the side that they were playing against because Mancini played against this duo. Ronald Koeman?
No, it's not Ronald Koeman.
No, that was my guess. It was
Yes.
Koeman.
It's another Italian.
I'm going to take a shot in the dark. I'm pretty sure it's wrong. Gianluca Vialli.
Is correct.
Really? Both played at
yes.
Sampdoria in the final.
I did tell you that it was a question for you, Joe.
Yeah, yep.
And you didn't let me down.
Where's Vialli linked to?
Who did he coach? It was he coached didn't he coach Sunderland?
I didn't even know, but he definitely has.
I don't think he ever coached Sunderland.
Let me find out. Hold on, I'm searching it right now.
Well, I'll tell you right now.
Tell me.
I'm gonna put it in. Oh, sorry.
Chelsea. Managed Chelsea.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. There it is.
Okay,
Yep.
Yeah, Vialli was appointed a player.
because I was thinking Koeman and Michael Laudrup.
Oh.
Those mines as well.
But they didn't play. I don't think because the final was.
Yes, they did.
I'm just looking at it. Yeah, but the final
But
was.
no, but Joe got.
Oh yeah, Koeman. That's
when
right.
I said that, he
Koeman
goes,
scored.
"Oh, I'm taking that it's an Italian." So he was
Yes.
right on that.
As soon as you said that, so
well. We're both right in a way because they both did.
that's it. So, all right.
Oh, they partnered up front too and managed in the Premier League.
Laudrup has coached at Sunderland. Koeman managed at.
And they won the European Cup up
They
front
did.
together.
They won. Yeah, Koeman scored the goal for Barcelona.
Yep.
Oh.
All right. So I think we can put the wraps on a fantastic show, guys. Don't you think?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
thought it was really good. I enjoyed the debate. Thanks, Rob, and to everyone else.
Let's hit the closing music there. And I do want to thank a few guys because I know they listened quite a bit tonight. So, again, that was Jack Fremy, Clinical Costa, also known as Liam, and I'm missing the third one here.
Luca.
It is Luca. That's right, Luca as well. Also, Sam Graff was listening as well tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve Graff.
Can I just throw in Liam at Clinical Costa also got what was his name? Vialli?
Yes, I think.
Yeah, he also got it too, and was put the years in that he managed in Chelsea.
Yeah. So
99, 2000.
Oh, there you go. Oh, I see the tweet now. So, coming up next week on our show, the big guest that we do have a soft commitment from, so I'm hoping he does join us, which will be, another fantastic guest, none other than U.S. men's national team goaltender Tony Miola, who's also the host of Counterattack. He's been on beIN Sport. If you don't know Tony Miola and you're familiar with American soccer, you're an idiot. So, seriously. So again,
That directed at me?
No, because
that is somebody I did know. I just
nice.
Yeah, I know him. Obviously.
No. And I want to thank John Townsend and Jim Hart for coming on from Year Zero Soccer. And those guys have started up their podcast, so definitely go and give them a listen. Fantastic guys, friends of the show, and we're thankful to have them. So for episode 67 of Low Limit Football, I am Joe Usello.
And I'm Roberto Rojas.
And I'm Mike Orr.
Thanks for joining us again, and good night.
Thanks for
Thank
listening.
you.